All right, everybody, welcome to the Ryan Stick Show. Today is a monumental day because I have David Mickey Evans, the director of the Sandlot, here in the studio. I was going to give you a long-winded intro about my love of this movie, but he's going to have to hear all of it about it in real time. David Mickey Evans, David Evans. Today, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me on your show, man. I really appreciate it.
David, the story of you coming here today is kind of amusing, and I would like to tell the audience and you how this came about. I was kind of on a kid's sports kick because there's some new Mighty Ducks stuff coming out,
right?
And from what I hear, maybe some new other stuff coming out. And I was basically I was watching. I told my girlfriend of 10 years, Melissa, like, you've never seen The Sandlot? Come on, we got to watch The Sandlot. And it was after a long day, and we put it on, and I'm drinking a little bit of whiskey, not a lot, but just a bit. And we're watching it, and I'm like, you don't get it. It's not about baseball. It is about baseball, but it's about this friendship and Benny the Jet's there, and how nice he is to Smalls. I know you. You're gonna love this movie. And sure enough, that scene where Smalls can't catch and Benny comes and gives him a glove, she breaks. She is weeping, hardcore weeping. And at that point, I had just enough liquid courage in me to reach out to you and say, listen, my 41-year-old girlfriend, who is not looking at this through the lens of nostalgic, is being moved incredibly by the sentimentality that the story displays and stuff. I'm not sure if you do interviews, but I have so many and you got back to me, and it was great the next day because A, I could barely remember asking you, and B,
That's awesome.
and B, I'm like, my spelling is fantastic when I'm worried someone might assume I'm buzzed. So anyway, that's how today came about. Thank you so much for doing this, David. And
my pleasure, dude. I mean, listen, you know, for your listeners and viewers, I retired from doing interviews, you know, like probably the beginning of last year. Like we went on tour with this thing with the picture to all the Major League Baseball stadiums and a host of AAA and double and single A things in 2013 for the 20th anniversary. And I probably met, you know, a couple of 100,000 people, and that was a low level thing. And then Fox got really involved in 2018 for the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
And we flew, I don't know, if you added it all up, maybe 40, 50,000 miles, me and all the guys. And we broke attendance records at Dodger Stadium and a couple of the other MLB parks, and met another many hundreds of thousands of people, signed tens and tens and tens of thousands of autographs, did hundreds and hundreds of interviews. And it just got to be, and I'm done. You know, I'm done. I love it. It's incredibly flattering, and I'm super grateful for it. But you know, it's over the top. I'm only one dude.
Yeah.
But when I got your message, I mean, the first thing I was going to do was hit delete and just not respond. You know. And then I said, "Son of a bitch! All right, let me read it." And I read it, and the only reason I'm on here, man, is because of those words.
I meant every word of it.
Oh, I know. I could tell you. I could tell. I don't know you from Adam. I mean, I do now for a few minutes, but I mean, at that time. But look, I can, you know, I've done 30 years in Hollywood, so the bullshit meter's finally tuned. And there wasn't a single molecule of bullshit in your words and in your request. And I asked my wife about it, and she goes, I think you got to do it.
Oh,
man. I'm gonna do it. So here I am.
Thanks so much, David. And I got to tell you, like, if it goes even further than this, I don't like baseball. I don't watch baseball, but
Canadian.
but I played softball for a year because of this movie.
Oh, wow.
Because I felt so much like Smalls when I was a kid, and I spent the rest of my life, when anything cool would happen, trying to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez. I would always try to include somebody that clearly wasn't feeling comfortable about something.
Didn't we all?
And I was rewatching this morning and re-feeling all the anxiety it is about trying to put yourself out there. And as I rewatched while we were watching the movie the other night, as I sat there for an hour and a half in tears, I was making some notes this morning. and in the beginning of the movie, you hear this baritone narration, you know, that's the one of those really good voices.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, I wonder who did that voice. And it just so happened that was you.
It was me.
How do you end up being the narrator of your own movie? Because that's something interesting to pitch to the executives, being like, I wrote this movie and I want to narrate it. We have James Earl
Yeah,
Jones in this movie. We have the great one of the
right.
greatest voices in all of Hollywood
Yeah.
history. We
Yeah.
have Darth Vader in this movie, but I want to be the narrator. How does it come to it that you are the narrator in your
Well, in Hollywood, I mean, you know, like in many other walks of life, endeavors, or whatever, it is sometimes easier to apologize than ask permission. So the way that happened was the actor that played the adult Scotty Smalls was Arliss Howard. And Arliss is a great guy, fantastic actor, an absolute gentleman, a pleasure to work with on in every way whatsoever. And I don't think I had met him personally. I might have talked to him on the phone a little bit
yeah.
before I cast him, and I cast him immediately. And when I met him on the day at Dodger Stadium, when we were going to shoot, we only had one day to shoot all that stuff in Dodger Stadium. Arliss sounds like this. He's a Southern boy, and he's got a bit of an accent from sort of, you know, the southern parts of the United States and such.
Okay.
And now he can lose that because he's a professional actor and he knows his shit. So we do the movie and all that. We get into the recording studio once we have our rough cut, and we need him to lay text down. So it was just me and my editor and a soundboard guy riding the pots. And Arliss gets in there, and we fire up the film, and he starts reading the narration, but he's got that Southern accent. Now, Scotty Smalls, it's never said in the movie, but he's supposed to be from the East Coast.
Okay.
And he moved to San Fernando Valley, Southern California in 1962.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that is because that's part of my life. I mean, my little brother and I and our mom moved 68 probably from Pennsylvania. Anyway,
Oh, okay.
Tommy Guiry. Oh yeah, there's a lot of just direct parallels from my past and my life in the Sandlot. But Tommy Guiry, who played Scotty, was from New Jersey. And that's what he sounded like, you know, and you can see a little bit of that in his voice sometimes. And I didn't write him about it. It was, hey, you know, I mean, maybe we should try and just be a little bit more sort of not so, you know, area specific. And he understood. So yeah, he did a great job. Tommy's a great guy, and he was a great kid. Anyway, so I needed the adult Scotty Smalls to sound a little bit more, you know, like me. Anyway, Arliss gets in there, and we try a couple of takes and stuff, and we go back and forth, and I keep hitting the button. Arliss, could you maybe lose some of the Southern stuff and all that? And he gets a little frustrated. I get a little frustrated. No worries, just a creative thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns to me. He looks from the screen into the recording studio, and he goes, "Look, Dave, I sort of brought a clarinet to this party. If you need a trumpet, you need to get someone else." There's some words to that effect. And I go, "All right, we're done here. Thanks very much, man." So we hugged it out, and he left. And so I sat down at the mixing board with Mike Stevenson, my editor, and I go, "Shitballs, Mike, what do we do now?" And he goes, "You do it." I go, "What?" He goes, "You wrote it. You know how to say it. You got a good voice. Just get in there and do it." Never called the studio, never asked permission, nothing. Okay.
Wow.
So I went into the thing. We threw up the film and ran it maybe 1.5 times. And that's what's in the movie.
Wow. Because the movie starts off with like, and wasn't it intended like, yeah, I know I know the Wonder Years kind of does that, where it's like looking back on the time and stuff. And I love narrations. I love when you hear that's like, you know, you're like, great, this is great. This means A, the kid's not dead. So, you know, he's older looking back on his time. But B, it's like the narration in this movie, as I was looking today, is so interesting because you basically told enough story where a kid who was about 7 or 8 years old when he first saw this movie, you kind of like Game of Thrones me, where you're like, and I got us in the biggest pickle we'd ever see. And it's kind of like telling everybody the dragons are coming on Game of Thrones for 4 seasons. Like you literally, you know, they're like, you're having fun at the pool, but what about that pickle? That pickle's coming up.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the best thing that narration can do, the best narration is narration that one fills in, sets you up, like you just said, drops it and then picks it up later, fills in the blanks, and bolsters or underscores the emotion. And I think that the words and the narration in the Sandlot do that very, very well. I'm not tooting my own horn. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, excuse me, narration that just tells you what's going on, then it should have been a documentary, you know. So yeah, I'm still 30 years later. I'm satisfied that it does what it was supposed to do. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it kept my attention. Like, and you know, I just got to say, it's just like I'm totally just kissing your ass today, but you know, this ass needs to be kissed. I was watching it and I was examining it again this morning, and I was just like, man, there are 100 little adventures before the beast stuff even starts. That is brilliantly crafted. Like, it's hard to make a movie where this much stuff happens, yet nothing real. It's not that nothing does until the beast happens, but like you have him joining the team, you know, him being accepted by the guys, going to the pool, like this is a sports movie in which you have a unique, like, out of the Mighty Ducks, out of everything else, there's no bad guy coach. There's no this is of an 80s actor or 70s actor, even with Walter Matthau, who had already been an established star, now working with children, who's down and out and needs to rekindle his love of the sport through the children. This is literally a movie about the kids, and the adults are kind of you know, these impossible people who are kind of like the mom is the only person he really connects to, because the stepdad, you know, he reluctantly teaches him how to play catch. At this point, James Earl Jones is a scary old man off in the distance that they think will feed them to dogs. Like, this is a story from the kid's perspective. But as a 36-year-old man watching this movie, I don't feel kind of like that I can't connect to the kids. I absolutely can. So so your movie, out of all those 90s sports movies, really stands alone in its pacing and its narrative. Like, how long did it take to actually come up with this story and the pacing? Because it's a complex movie. It's not just about a bunch of kids trying to get a baseball back.
Yeah, it's deceptively complex.
Yeah,
the least of which is working with 9 kids, boys in this case, who are all 11, 12, and 13. And, you know, it's the height of summer. Yeah, there they are. And 5 English Mastiff dogs. And English Mastiffs are sweet, sweet dogs. All they want to do is lay around and do nothing. So, and all that was just, you know, an act of God. And then you got all those hormones raging and, you know, rivalries and this and that and the other thing. I had all these guys together at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 weeks in Salt Lake City, Utah, where we shot the picture. During pre-production, and I put them all in the same hotel room. You know, they all went to eat together. They went to the movies together. They went to do go-karts and all kinds of other stuff together, because I wanted them to be friends. And you know, I was convinced, and I think it worked, that that would come through, you know, on the screen.
Absolutely.
What was the question again, dude?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, it's so complex. It's so complex to, you know, come up with a story where it's just like, you know, all the other kids movies were kind of like, here's the coach versus the other coach, Little Giants, Mighty Ducks, even back in the day, the Bad News Bears. But what made you say to yourself, put the pen to the paper, this is the type of story I want to tell from the kid's perspective?
Well, right. And I mean, that's one of the things I said to my DP, the great Tony Richmond, when we met. I had met him a couple of times before, and we somehow, with the machinations and the gears of Hollywood, didn't get to work together. And then on this one, I insisted. And I said, Tony, this is all from the kid's point of view. And what that means for you is I don't want this camera ever, unless completely necessary. And I measured the tallest kid, which was Mike, and he was like, I think 5'4", 5'5" at the time. I go, don't ever put the legs up that high, there or below, and never, at an adult's point of view. And he said, got it. So that's one of the things we did. The late, great, God rest his soul, Roger Ebert, and I think Siskel said this as well when they reviewed this when it first came out in '93. They both gave it a big thumbs up and a huge boost because they loved it. And Roger Ebert said, he goes, I don't think I've ever seen a sports movie that didn't end with the big game.
Yeah.
And he goes, and this one does not have a big game in the end. Now, he's right. But arguably, you could say the chase with the beast is the big game.
For sure.
And it's about a ball, but it's not it is a baseball, but it's not about baseball, because that's not what the movie's about. And I mean, the movie's been called the greatest baseball movie ever made, the greatest sports movie ever made, and the best summer movie of all time. Those are not my words. It's just been, over and over and over and again for the last 20 years.
They're mine.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, you and Mighty Ducks are tied. You threw the ball back and forth, and then a drop.
Ducks, and I know what he went through making that picture. I mean, all the difficulties and stuff you have to contend with, and then he had all of that plus kids on ice. That's a remarkable feat of directing. But the deal is, a lot of this stuff is, look, the Sandlot is not my childhood. It's what my childhood should have been, and what I wished it would have been.
Really?
Oh, yeah. My little brother and I lived in an area where we were not liked. We got beat up all the time. We never got included in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Bullies stuck in my head all the way up into my adult years. And I used to live in Southern California, and I was in traffic and gridlock traffic one day driving home, and I was probably 27 years old, and that stuff just started in my head again about these guys. And by the time I got home, I said, I got it. I got an idea. The movie is a bunch of kids on a block who, oh my God, look how young I was. Good Lord. And it's a movie about these kids. A ball goes over a backyard and a big dog gets it, and he's scary, and they got to get it back. I go, that's a movie. Everything else about Babe Ruth, this, that all came later. But that nugget of that thing. And I got home out of traffic that day and just started thinking about all the kids I knew, good and bad, mostly bad, growing up, all the adventures I had. I made some lists and stuff. And then I called up a title page and typed, the original title of The Sandlot was The Boys of Summer. The great sports writer Roger Kahn got really pissed off about that, so we had to change it. Because I didn't realize at the time that was the name of this great book.
I thought Don Haley or something from the Eagles would have been pissed at you or something like that.
Hey. That was many years later. I was pissed when he wrote that song. But anyway. And that was it. I mean, nobody wants to see, I didn't want to see a movie about a bunch of bullies. So, I mean, in a very, very short sense, I took all the bullies of my childhood and I turned them into heroes.
Get out.
That's pretty much what The Sandlot is. I mean, really.
So who was Benny the Jet to you? Because I gotta tell you, like, through life, I like look at the Benny the Jet character, and like there's this specific scene where the kid could have, he runs off. Yeah, that could have been it. He puts himself out there, he can't catch, he can't throw, he gets laughed out of the field. and he runs off. But when Benny comes to his house after the kid not only embarrasses himself there, but then at home, he embarrasses himself in front of Dennis Leary, and no one wants to do that. He's just sitting there defeated at his lowest point, and here comes this shining knight, the most talented player who in other circles would just like of jockness would let his underlings talk him up and just live in this bubble. But no, he's not interested in that. He's interested in the bigger picture, that baseball is life and not life is baseball. And he extends his this olive branch to this kid, where he literally gives him a glove, he literally gives him a hat, and brings him into this world that this kid is clamoring to be in. And that scene is just those two scenes are just so beautiful. But that's got to come from somewhere. Who was your Benny the Jet Rodriguez back in the day?
It's a really good point, and the answer is there was none. I didn't have one, and that's why I invented him. I mean, there's I said it a little while ago, but where that comes from is when Walt Disney got done building Disneyland, which everyone told him was going to be impossible, told him he'd never be able to do it. I think he built it in a year and a day, and they said it was going to take 10 years, and I think he built the whole place for $5 million, something like that. You can fact check me on that. When it was open for a little while, it became instantaneously, internationally, globally famous. And every head of state, kings, queens, premiers, the Shah of Iran, I mean, you name it, everybody wanted to come and get a tour of this place from Walt himself.
Wow.
And he granted a lot of those, and some he didn't, because the United States government wouldn't let them, like the Soviet premier wanted to come. I think it was Brezhnev or somebody. And they said, no, not going to happen. No visa for you. Anyway, I can't remember who the dignitary was, but they're walking down Main Street, USA, which is a 5/8 scale, fact check me on that, of what you would believe is a faithful reproduction of a late 1880s up until, say, the 1920s, middle American downtown street, with these wonderful, an ice cream shop and a clothier and a watch place and all of these particularly American institutions.
Okay.
And this dignitary, and because Walt grew up only for a little bit of time in Marceline, Missouri, which had a little downtown like that, but he was only there for a couple of years because they moved around a lot. But he always remembered and considered that his boyhood home. So they're walking down Main Street, and this dignitary says to Walt, "Wow, Mr. Disney, you really did. This is exactly the way it used to be." And he said, "No, it's not. It's the way it should have been."
Oh.
And the thing with the kids and everything that happens in the Sandlot is basically a flip side of the coin that I lived when I was a kid. It's not my life. It's the way it should have been. I had a terrible, horrible stepfather. We never really had friends, my brother and I. And my brother is actually the kid in real life who went over the wall to get a ball, but he got bit by a dog really bad. So that's where the whole thing actually comes from, this little instance in our childhood. So it was baseball. Why? Because I love baseball. Could have been basketball, could have been anything else, I suppose, but not really, because baseball is like apple pie and jazz. It's particularly, oh, that's awesome. Somebody just said they got a Ham Porter t-shirt and they get a bunch of compliments. I love that.
My friend Nick said something really funny. He's like, "Oh my God, the Sandlot."
Dude, hey, don't stop crying, dude. It gets better. Don't worry.
Nicholas is one of the biggest Sandlot fans in the world. He asks a plethora of questions, so we're going to ask you later.
So the thing was, I knew where the movie, I needed to write it. So I knew where it began. I knew where it ended. And I had, a billion different adventures and this and that and other things that my little brother and I did when we were very young. And in the middle, that's where that stuff comes from. That's where going to the carnival and the pool and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
When we were young and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and we lived in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California, we were real poor kids, so we'd get some pop bottles and get 50 cents together and go to the public pool on Saturday and Sunday all day. And for a quarter you could get in, swim all day, and then get out. Your lungs were burning from all the chlorine they had in the pool. You could get like a bunch of ice cream from the ice cream guy and ride your bike home. But at that time, that was in the 70s, all of the lifeguards at those pools were high school or early college age young men and women. If I had to guess, it was probably a 50-50 split.
Mm-hmm.
But all the guys wore these Los Angeles County lifeguard red swim trunks, but the goddesses,
yeah,
the lifeguardettes, if you will, if I could say that in this day and age without getting canceled.
You could say it on this show.
Dude, they wore these one-piece red. I guess it was the precursor to Baywatch or whatever. But man, when you're 12 and 13 years old as a boy, and you're and they're up there literally on a pedestal. Okay. They were goddesses. And all of them that I ever saw, that's Wendy Peppercorn.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. When it, I don't think I would have ever had the balls to, to squint, to pull a squints and stuff like that. But but here's the thing, David. Not everybody can make a movie, but not everybody can make a great movie. And sequence and tensions are all part of the filmmaking process that I enjoy the most. As an editor by trade, when you think Squints is drowning, and for a second you actually start believing it, and when the score comes together and all the kids are there and he's just like, oh no, and then Yaya's like, oh no, man, he looks pretty crappy. Like, there's some giggles, but you're still nervous. But then Squints pulls this face, and then he looks at his friends, and that giggle, like,
yeah.
It's still like, God, I'm 36 years old. I'm still laughing my ass off on the sequences.
Oh, dude, the great story about that. I appreciate that, and that's obviously my favorite scenes. Marley Shelton, who plays Wendy, who's gone on to be just had a fantastic career. She was, I think, 18 years old when we did that, and I think I met her on the day, and I said, okay, this, that, and the other thing, and blah, blah, blah. So, but for weeks, maybe 2 weeks before we shot that scene, Chauncey, who plays Squints.
Yeah.
Chauncey was completely different than Squints in real life. In real life, he was he was like 12 and a half, 13. He was kind of short, but this dude was a baller. He got big baggy pants and the hat like this, and he was just just the coolest dude.
Yeah.
So that he could pull off that goofy shit was remarkable. But he was nervous. He was really nervous, man, for a couple of weeks, because he knew there was going to come a time where we were going to shoot that pool scene, and he was going to have to kiss this lifeguard. And he kept asking, Dave, when do you think we're going to do that scene? And I go, I don't know, man. You can go talk to the AD. He's the guy that schedules a picture. Talk to the AD. And he'd come back again and again and again. I go, look, man, you got to stop worrying about this. No, dude, I wanted him to worry. Okay. And I ratcheted up to just let that kid get so anxiety ridden about this. And I never told him we were going to go shoot that until the day we drove to the pool to shoot it.
Get out. Really?
Yeah. And I didn't let him meet Marley until the day of. And he's this little dude thinking his shit don't stink, and he's the baller of the universe, and he's like this tall. And Marley, she's a tall, I think she's probably 5'8", 5'9", I think.
She's tall.
Oh, dude, he had to look up at her, and she is all about this blonde goddess in this one-piece red thing, and you could see his knees just start shaking, dude. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be comedy gold. So we come to do it. We kind of shoot it in order. I go, all right, get in the pool. They pull him out. I go, now listen to me. I took him aside. I don't know if you know this story.
I don't.
The pool. Let me see here. Into the back corner there, the back corner of the pool. I'm pointing at the thing. And everybody's waiting on us. Camera's ready. Marley's there. Everybody's ready. And I took a knee just to get my eyes down to his eyes. And I said, you listen to me, kid. And he goes, yeah. I go, we're going to do this kiss scene now. He goes, okay, yeah. And I said, you keep your tongue in your mouth. And for a minute, he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And then he goes, oh, yeah, no, yeah, totally. No, yeah, that's okay. And I go, I'm serious, dude. And he goes, okay. So we do the shot, and it's absolutely perfect. One take, right?
Wow.
Everybody busting up. We didn't even have the music sting with this magic moment, and still the whole crew's busting up. And we get done, and I go, check the gate, Tony. So he checks the gate, make sure the film's fine. And I go, I don't think it's going to get any better than that. And so Chauncey goes, Dave, can I talk to you for a second? And so he takes me aside a few feet, and he goes, listen, can we do that again? I think I can do better.
Yeah, I bet you could do better.
I asked Marley, look, can we do one more take? Is it okay with you? And she goes, yeah. And she could bored holes in his soul. I mean, in a kind way, and goes, yeah, one more. And so he got 2 kisses.
Okay. So we're talking, they eventually got married and they had like 6 kids. 9 kids there. Yeah. Thank you. And when you find out they had 9 kids, means that they were very interested in each other. So I just crafted that little, Sandlot fan fiction of he was her first, she was his first kiss, but he was her first save. Because if she was a lifeguard standing around all day oiling herself up, if I had just saved a kid that almost died a week before, I would have been like, y'all got to stop messing around. We've been oiling each other up. We got lucky this time. Someone almost died on my watch because I was because I was glistening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just, taking care of her skin, SPF, whatever.
All right. So you know what? We got a lot of questions for you. I mean, the fan, I'm not the only Sandlot fan in the world here. And basically, Brandon says 9 kids. That's very indicative of Utah.
He's absolutely right. And that has not crossed my mind for years. But no, there was no I didn't sit down during the narration and go, well, we shot it in Utah. They're all Mormon and they have a lot of kids. No. Okay. It was just like, well, I mean, if you do the math, the ages work out where, if they got together after he got out of high school, maybe out of college, he's in his early 20s, she's 5 years older. Yeah, they have time to have that many kids. So
my girlfriend's 5 years older than me. Sweetie, you're my Wendy.
Dude, you're in.
Can we pretend I'm drowning? Our anniversary is coming up. Okay. Tim Ryan said something very cool. He says, love the cool hand Luke nod as they stare through the fence. She don't know what she's doing.
Yep. That is absolutely correct. That is exactly what that's an homage to when the warden's daughter with no bra in that little summer dress is what's up against that soapy window. Yes, sir.
Brandon, who's a very, very talented comedian and MC, he said, I've got my Sandlot coffee mug and Benny the Jet from T Public. Still my favorite sports movie ever. And he actually sent me a photo of said mug. You're killing me.
That one.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously? What do I got here? Hold on a second.
Oh man, I want this mug. I'm drinking out of a comedically large Frankenstein mug right now. I don't got no Sandlot mug. That'd be awesome.
Brendan is he's clearly a big fan. He needs to get this.
Wow.
This is let me see. How do I do this? Okay. Whoops. The David Mickey Evans edition dugout mugs. This is actually made from the barrel of a legitimate baseball bat. And they laser etched the great photo into the barrel.
Ah, that's amazing. Where does one get said bat mug?
Dugout mugs.
Dugout mugs, everybody.
These guys are remarkable. You can get these. I mean, they've got license with the MLB and all this. Very, very cool. Yes, that's not a paid promotion, but I do get paid.
That's true. Hey, whatever, man.
It's the coolest. I don't know. Where did Brendan get that cool mug?
Brandon, tell us where you got that cool mug, dude.
I can't believe I don't have one of those.
Okay. Oh, he said he found it at Winners.
What's a Winners?
Oh, Winners is a store that is in the States and Canada, and it's I don't know. It's a store called Winners, and people win there. I don't know.
Oh,
apparently. Oh, he said it's like Marshalls. Yeah.
Oh, even better. Okay,
there
cool.
you go. I'm like, God, Winners a Canadian thing? Jeez. Sometimes I forget. But right now, everybody, we're going to be getting into into all the questions. And so I'm going to be asking them right now because I did a post about a week ago and got so many comments. I'm just going to say, Pete Johnson said, definitely one of my favorite childhood movies. Jamie Lambert said, love this film. Pamela Monpetit said, classic. My homie and work colleague, Julia, said, awesome, love that film. And she grew up French Canadian. So, you know, your movie through either translations or it's so good that people are willing to watch movies they half understand as a kid. Julia is not exactly like, you know, like a giant baseball fan, but that's the thing. So many people out there love this movie regardless of the sport it's based on, and that's due to character development. I mean, your characters are so strong. The fact that the brothers, like the younger brother will always kind of parrot what the other one said. You mentioned that some of the Sandlots are based on some bullies you knew. Did you know like two brothers where the younger brother was always kind of imitating the old one?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think we all did. Like that's and I've talked to people from all over the world. I mean, you know, Pakistan, India, Japan, all over Europe, Australia, that is not a big baseball. It's a big basketball country, but not a big baseball country.
Yeah.
It's like one of the #1 sports movies of all time in Australia. And it's not because it's about baseball. And that's why, I mean, a lot of baseball movies or sports movies, particularly American sports movies, football, it does not translate well overseas. Baseball, not really. Basketball kind of does because it's played all over the world. But that's because it's not a baseball movie. It's a movie about friendship. And it's a movie, you just said it, Ryan, and this is the way I like to answer that question is, I don't care who you are or where you come from or how you grew up. You either knew one of these kids or someone like were one of these kids or wanted to be like one of these kids. And I don't want to get all, you know, Carl Jung about it, but it's the universal subconscious, man. You know, it's dealing with things that are universal in the human condition and the human experience. Everybody wants a friend. You know, no man is an island and all that. Did that stuff go through my head when I was writing it? Yeah, a little bit. But if you get too wrapped up in that, then it, you know, becomes all self-involved and egomaniacal. So no, it wasn't. I mean, for the most part, I was just trying to be fucking funny. And I guess it worked. You know?
And fucking funny you were. We got some other amazing comments. Danny Rebel, everybody out there, check out Danny Rebel's music and his beautiful voice. He said, I was obsessed with that movie as a kid, along with Rookie of the Year. It's true. You know what? Baseball, and in movies in the '90s, there was a lot of baseball movies, and sometimes it comes back to the Bad News Bears. You just made me think of it. Did you want to set out to make sure your movie like wasn't like the Bad News Bears? Because like even though they're two movies about baseball, Bad News Bears was pretty much like we're a bunch of ragtag kids that suck, and we need to get better. While in the Sandlot, they were all awesome right off the bat. Smalls walked into that field and they were established, and it was about Smalls being the outsider, being introduced, joining the big team, and then the big team having no obstacles to come when it came to baseball. Like their obstacle was giant dog,
yeah,
and running.
That's it. Yeah. No, listen, in my, I mean, I have a lot of favorite sports movies.
Oh, please tell me your favorite sports movies. That's awesome.
Bull Durham, The Natural. I mean, these are all the movies that the Sandlot goes up against every year. And Bleacher Seats, and Sports Illustrated. They always run an annual best sports movie or best baseball movie of all time. And the Sandlot's won the majority of the time with all of that stuff. When I was a kid, I mean, a lot of favorite movies, but I do remember when I was young going to see the Bad News Bears. And in my estimation, that is the best baseball and the best sports movie ever made. No question. That script is almost flawless. I think it was Bill Lancaster. Google that. I dare anybody to try to get that movie, the original Bad News Bears, made today with the same dialogue.
Oh, okay. I was going to say they did try to make the Bad News Bears again. We're like, hey, bad Santa was cool. Let's make it bad baseball.
And so bad. It was just horrible. And I mean, I don't wish anything bad on anybody's movie.
No, of course not.
Movie does a movie that's good for us, and we're all in this together, brother and sisterhood. But yeah, the Bad News Bears is definitely
Bill Lancaster. Yep, you are correct.
One of the best scripts ever written. I mean, bar none. The Sandlot was informed like that. But again, I just wanted to tell this story almost as much as I could. I couldn't do it 100%, but close enough from the kids' point of view. Like Our Gang and the Little Rascals and all that great stuff. A lot of Bad News Bears is from the kids' point of view, but most of it is from Walter Matthau's point of view. And they're always looking up at him like that. I didn't want a lot of, because the fascination of child. I did a movie before the Sandlot called Radio Flyer, which is also entirely from the kids' point of view, and that just fascinates me. When I wrote in the book, I think I say it in the movie as well. It's there's like the 7 great fascinations and abilities that you have as a kid that in the quick second between the time you're 12 years old and your 13th birthday, you lose them. They're gone.
That's true.
You can't do them anymore. And I know that's, what was it? Some fucking critic called the Sandlot shamelessly nostalgic once.
Really?
Yeah. And I got that dude's number and I called him up and I said, listen, you shouldn't quit your day job because that's fucking redundant. Bye-bye. Click. I never read another review from that guy, so maybe he quit. Point being, yeah, dude, I wanted to revel and wallow in nostalgia. And I wanted to rewrite my own childhood to make it better. In the old days, it was a yellow legal pad and number 2 Ticonderoga pencil. That's a time machine. I can change history. Oh, he was a beautiful kid, wasn't he, Elijah? Wow.
He's I've seen him in person at a con. He's a beautiful man too. Those baby blues have not faded.
Yeah, I met him when we were doing this, and he was just his eyes were like, my God, kid, stop staring at me. Wow. It was something. Camera loves him.
And he looks people in the eye when they talk to him. He's like, you know, so it's kind of like you get a little lost for a second. Like the term
Dude,
lost in your eyes, it totally applies.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's had a remarkable career.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for him.
Really has. And he really still just loves movie and little strange movies. Like he will go there. He's like, I'm Elijah Wood. I could do whatever I want. I've been at this forever. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
God, I was going to bring up something because you're mentioning about rewriting history the way you want it to, even your personal history. And I'm like, you know what? Tarantino's done that twice now with Inglourious Bastards and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's like, look, this is the kind of the way that, you know, the Sharon Tate stuff could have went down with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I really responded to that because with the Once Upon a Time title, and it just makes you show it. Like I always thought Sandlot was kind of like a baseball fairy tale, but you just solidify that with those words that it is a fairy tale.
You're right. It is a baseball fairy tale. Yeah. Come true.
Amazing. Okay. Wow. Okay. So, shout out to my mom, by the way. Right before I go into Nick's questions, because he's got a lot of them. And I really want to read them because, good God, like that kind of fandom and devotion to something is something that you are currently giving to me. So thank you very much because you being kind and courteous enough to come on this show means the world to me, and I definitely want to pay it forward in the Benny the Jet sense. But right before we do that, I got to tell you a funny story. Is that when The Sandlot came out in theater, and you know, back in the day, you had maybe a few weeks, maybe a month in the theater, and you'd have to go find when it played at. It's not like now where megaplexes have it playing in 4 or 5 places. The Sandlot came out the same time as Surf Ninjas, and my dad really wanted really wanted to go see The Sandlot, and I convinced him. I'm like, oh, Dad, I want to see the Surf Ninjas thing, and we ended up going to see Surf Ninjas, which is all right, you know. Ernie's great in it. He's a great lead in it, and it's a lot of fun. But it's kind of disposable fun. It's that kind of like, you know, go see something wacky and then go on with your life. Now, I have brought this up to my dad 500 times because when The Sandlot came out on video, I watched it upon renting it 9 times before returning it. You know, like literally within the time frame that they would allow you to watch it, I had it playing, then rewinding, and even if I was walking in and out of the room, it was still just on. Because back in the day when you had to rent something, you're like, I spent 4 of my 10 like 9-year-old dollars on this. You know, like that's the world. That's a large sum of money. So just rented it, then would rent it every few months. And I just always have said to my dad, I'm like, Dad, I fucked up. You know, every once in a while, it'd just be like, Dad, you got to keep picking the movies from now because fuck, I'm so
sorry, Dad. I don't know everything.
I know. So my dad is a wise man and a martial artist, but the greatest thing he ever taught me is like, like, you know, I'm like, Dad, you're the martial artist. I thought Surf Ninjas. I thought it was catering to you, apparently. But yeah, it just still blows me away that all these years later, 25 years later, we're still 25 plus years later, I'm still telling my dad I fucked up. But
listen, that was the halcyon days of the VHS revolution before the DVD revolution. And if memory serves, the only movies that would come out on VHS in the 100,000 copies to 1 million copies initially, you're talking 92 to 97, something like that, blockbuster.
About that, yeah.
Were Disney movies, Disney animated movies, okay? Because everybody who had a kid, the guy, well, there you go. It's a Disney movie. We got to get it.
Yeah.
The Sandlot sold after its theatrical run at the end of 93, or about 3/4 of the way through, sold, I think, 660,000 VHS tapes.
What?
Yeah, into national. That was just national in the United States, into the rental market. I still have like 4 of them. I also have a laser disc, which is cool. Where is that thing? It'll be, if I can eyeball it all. Hang on a
That'd be
second.
that'd be amazing.
Wait. Here it is. Here's
Oh,
one.
that's so cool.
So
I don't know, Sandlot anything. It'd be like I have a Sandlot
this one is still in the original wrap.
oh wow.
See? And it still has the like movie clips and $5 rebate. So I'm going to send it in and see if I get my $5. Happen. One.
Oh, those old classic VHS boxes too, just made whatever you were renting or buying, especially with Disney. Disney would do the those ones that you're talking about, the big, large plastic shell ones.
Yeah.
That would fill your shelf. And you felt like every Disney movie you got was a big one piece of a collection.
Yep. And that's the laser disc. Put this away 1 second.
Let's keep it out. Look, if you have Sandlot underwear, like bust them out, man. Like
no, dude, I don't have any Sandlot undies, but I got. We just moved into this house, so my office is in kind of disarray. It's a work in progress, but I've got pretty much every single Sandlot T-shirt that's ever been made hanging in there.
Okay.
And I have something like 50 or 60 game jerseys that all the MLB teams and the AAA teams have given me with either my name or Sandlot on the back hanging.
Oh yeah. We have a photo. We have a photo of one of that. This is one of the ones they gave you. When you were telling me a story when we were messaging each other about this day, like, you know, how they kind of brought you.
That was me and one of my sons. Yeah. In the box, yeah.
And how they, you know, all these teams. I mean, look, I'm 36, so that means a lot of pro ball players. And we have questions to get everybody out there who is, everyone out there who's waiting to get your questions asked. Just saying that I've been waiting for this interview my whole life, so we will definitely we'll definitely get to them.
Good decision, Ryan.
Yeah, but. It just dawned on me because there's these great Sandlot reunions that Ham has hosted on a. I keep calling them by their name, by their character names, because it's how I want to live. It's a fairy tale, ladies and gentlemen. But it kind of showed that a lot of professional baseball players who are my age or a little younger all grew up with this movie, were inspired by this movie, and now they're all major leaguers.
Yep.
Like how many major leaguers have come up to you and said, I picked up the bat because of you, man. I picked up the ball because of you. I treasured autographs more because of you.
If I had to put a number on it.
Well, not a number, because I'm sure that you can't make that kind of calculations based on the hundreds of it happening. But
when a professional Major League Baseball player, you know, single A, double A, triple A, but a dude who's in the show, you know, like MLB, like Justin Turner told me that. I'd say maybe 20 or 30. Like literally, that said, you're the reason I play baseball.
Wow.
I never know what to say to these guys other than, well, thank you. You're welcome. I don't, you know, I mean, how do you respond to that? You know?
Not at all. Yeah.
I mean, I have an enormous feelings of intense gratitude and, you know, a little bit of pride in there, not the sinful kind, but the good kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, when these guys, and you know, one thing people don't know about Major League Baseball players, their hands, when you shake the hand of a professional in the show,
okay,
a Major League Baseball player, dude, you're nothing. Their hands are iron. Like
I'm sure.
Steel, you know, never knew that. Time I got to shake hands with one of them. And I mean, dude, I've hung out with Steve Garvey and, you know, oh my God, Tommy Lasorda 100 times. God rest his soul, the skipper. I'm so glad he got to see the boys do it.
Yeah.
One time before he went to the great Field of Dreams. But yeah, at least 20 or 30. And then if you go down into the AAA things, you know, 100 more, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, look, in 2013, when we did the smaller 20th anniversary tour, we went to Twins, where the Twins play in Minnesota. They were playing the Sox.
Okay.
And me and Pat Renna, who played Ham, and Chauncey Leopardi, who played Squints. and my wife and my German Shepherd. And we went on to, they took us out onto the field before the game where the Sox were having BP, batting practice. And we were just, hanging out, down third base line or whatever. And Big Poppy, David Ortiz, who retired a year or two ago.
Okay.
He's taking BP. And I had no idea how big that dude is. Like, I'm 6 feet tall. This dude's like 6'4", 260, all muscle with hands like, banana bunches. He's huge. He looks over and he sees, he doesn't know who the hell I am. It doesn't matter. He sees Chauncey and Patrick, who look remarkably the same as they did when they were kids. And Big Poppy throws his bat down, trots over, and he goes, "Oh my God!" And he grabs these guys, picks them both up in his arms, and goes, "You are my heroes." I've had a lot of great Sandlot moments, but that's definitely in the top 10. Yeah, he is a mountain, Brendan. And, it's not like he said, "You're the reason I play baseball," but it was like he just had unbelievable childlike love for those guys, their characters.
Nicholas is saying you can add an Earth to the list because I played ball for 5 years because of this movie. And I gotta validate Nick there because he wrote a lot of questions, and I gotta get to them because they're good questions though. I'm just like, all right, everyone out there, like if you're a Sandlot fan, tell me what you love about the movie or if you have any questions. And he says, I dressed as Jenny the Jet for Halloween. I rock a PF Flyers every day, the same ones in the movie. I named my fucking dog Hercules. We built a treehouse in the backyard because of this movie. I don't know where to begin. I have about, and he said a large number with about 20 different numbers. So I'm assuming it's just comically large questions to ask him. But please, Ryan, tell him Nick asks, why the PF Flyers and where did the dog's name come from? We'll ask that now. And we'll continue asking your questions, Nick. But let's start off with those. Those are two great questions. Why the PF Flyers and where did the dog's name come from?
Why PF Flyers is because when we were kids, like I was saying a while ago, we were very poor. And when school would come around, grade school or whatever, we didn't get a new pair of Converse or we didn't get a, PF Flyer. There was the Chuck Taylors and stuff were a big deal. But the big deal was PF Flyers in the 70s. And, they've been around since I think the 30s. And PF stands for Posture Foundation.
Really?
Yeah. Because their insoles kind of supported your, what do you call it? The arch of your foot and all that. And literally their advertisement for many, many years, decades, was PF Flyers, shoes that help a kid run faster and jump higher. That's literally what their marketing was in print advertising and especially in television. So every kid, because look, in the 60s and 70s, man, probably in the 80s, but when I was a kid, 60s and 70s, when you saw that shit on TV and they told you those shoes are going to make you run faster and jump higher, you had to have them, because you wanted to run faster and jump higher. Physical fitness was sort of a big deal in school systems at that time. So that's why PF Flyers. Plus, they weren't exactly inexpensive, but for a poor kid, we never got a pair. Okay. So it was just a natural thing when I was doing the Sandlot that Benny had to have a secret weapon. I mean, how the hell is he going to beat this dog if he has to pickle it and then, unfortunately, race it? Well, he has to have the greatest sneakers in the history of mankind. Excuse me.
So they're the 1960s answer to the 60s and 70s answer to the Air Jordans, let's say.
Yeah. Yes, but even on a bigger basis. And the funny question about that, and here's the weird thing, is like I've had two instances in my paltry little career. When I did Radio Flyer, the company Radio Flyer, who makes the wagons and stuff, was in very grave, imminent danger of a hostile takeover. It had been up to that time a wholly family-owned company from
Really?
the 20s all the way up into 1990. And you literally, I think Little Tykes, the big toy company, was trying to buy them and force them to sell and shit. And when Mario Passon, who was the son of the founder, and his son Robert Passon, who now runs the company, came out to Columbia Studios, and word got out, and the Columbia and Sony marketing machine started happening. Little Tykes went away real fast because Radio Flyer didn't need him anymore because of the movie.
Wow.
And the same thing on a smaller scale happened with PF Flyers. They had been not doing well for a long time. And after the Sandlot came out, I mean, they gave us some shoes, but they were like, oh, cool, it's a movie with kids. They read the script. They were fine.
Okay.
Then it became a cultural phenomenon. Again, not my. And New Balance bought them. And they still own them. Yeah. And they're one of New Balance's most profitable companies. And they make a lot of different shoes than just the original thing. And now, and they did a special, I think, for the 25th anniversary. Might have been the 23rd. Could have been the 20th or the 25th. I have a couple pairs of them in there. They renamed their original PF Flyer the Sandlot.
Really?
And inside, there's a little tag that literally says the secret weapon.
Get out.
Wait for it. And the footbed, you can take it in and out. The insert, the squishy part, is a photo pic, an imprint photo of the Sandlot infield dirt.
That's so cool. Nick says he wears them every day. Best shoes ever.
They are comfy, man.
It's funny. The Ramones have probably sold more Converse high tops than any band ever, and they are not comfortable shoes. I always thought they looked cool.
Everybody got your Chuck Taylors, but man, they're flat as pancakes.
I know. Every time I jump in those Converse shoes and I would land, I'm a musician on stage, it would feel like there was a bolt of lightning going up my body from my heels.
No, you got to have Flyers.
It hurts to look that good.
Yeah, he did. And everybody laughed at him, called these bullies. But anyway, point being, when we needed to get a dog to play Hercules in the movie, well, we need the biggest, ugliest, scariest looking son of a bitch. And that's an English Mastiff. So we had about 5.
And then he made him scarier by having these giant dog props.
Well, that was the deal was, again, it had to be from the kid's point of view. And I had to keep in mind that this was 1962. So what would today, if it was, my kids, your kids, everybody, their perception, what they would see if they were imagining a scary monster in a backyard would be, my God, the most awesome CG monster you could possibly imagine and create, because that technology exists. But those guys, all they had was in the movies was Ray Harryhausen and stop motion animation and puppets and stuff like that. So we stuck very close to whatever it was that would have been their perception, and that's why we built those big puppets.
And that was a really good idea, because frankly, it made it kind of surreal. And then when you really do look at, rewatching the movie, looking at Smalls, he hears the dog 10 times louder through the fence. There's this ominous presence throughout the whole movie. The Beast plot is pretty much only half an hour out of an hour movie. But and the rest of the hour and the rest of that first hour is the many adventures the team would have at pools, puking in carnivals, and all that stuff. But the Beast was a lingering presence. You always made sure you'd sprinkle that on when Smalls first goes onto the field. There's something behind that fence. And fascinating stuff. Okay, Nick also asked, let's get in. How the hell did you get James Earl Jones involved? And Oh, and the second question, and how did he feel about playing about and how did he feel and how did Art feel about playing the great Bambino? So right now we're going to talk James Earl Jones, Darth Vader himself, the Snake Master from Conan the Barbarian,
Oh yeah.
and Mufasa. How do you get James Earl Jones in there? Because in 1990, in the early 90s, James Earl Jones is, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, he's CNN. He's Darth Vader. He's arguably the greatest actor of his generation. And when we wrote it, Mr. Myrtle was not, it never said, he's a 60-year-old white man or a 60-year-old black man. There was nothing. There was no specificity as to his ethnicity or his ethnicity or anything like that, or his race. And we were, I don't know, a week or two into filming, and it was coming time to shoot the Mr. Myrtle scenes in the schedule. And so I sat down with the producers and my AD, and I go, well, we got to get somebody for this. I need some ideas. And the casting director as well, the late, great Sherry Rhodes. And Bill Elvin, God rest his soul, he was my AD, one of the best ADs that ever lived. He said, you got to get James Earl Jones. And I thought about it for a second. I said, shit, that's a really good idea. And so it wasn't a big change. There was a little bit in the end of the movie where he knew Babe Ruth and all that. So you would have assumed by that he must have been a white man. But then I thought, well, no, let's do the math. That would have been in the 30s. There were the Negro Leagues. This stuff kind of still works. So, but then I said to Bill, yeah, right. Like, we're going to get James Earl Jones. Dude, seriously, we got to get an actor for this thing. He goes, no, I'll call him. I go, what, are you just going to fucking call James Earl Jones? And he goes, yeah. And he did.
Wow.
And it turns out that Bill was the first AD on Field of Dreams, which I didn't know.
Out. Really?
Yeah. And he calls him and he says, all right, I'm going to send him the script. They sent him the script. He literally called me the next day with that voice, David, blah, 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 blah. And,
really?
And we talked it out. And he says, now, I never would have been able to play this because I'm a black man. But I go, yeah, okay. But it would have been the 30s. He kind of figured it out. And he says,
I like how even he back then was kind of like, oh, I want to make sure it's accurate to the times and whatever. But it's just like, but James, this is a baseball fairy tale. In fact, and sorry to cut you off there, but I just want to say I love the fact that race is never brought up in this entire movie. I mean, it's just, if you like, the only ostracization anybody gives anybody in this movie is if they can play baseball or not. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then we'll teach you, because Benny's, the archetypical.
Yeah. So James Earl Jones calls you up with that deep Darth Vader voice, and
as this, we talk it out, and like that afternoon, I fix all the pages, I send it to him, and he says yes, and they paid him a whack of money, and he was there, I think, less than a week later. And I mean, you've seen those clips. I was like 27 years old at the time. So he comes on the set the first day. He's all in makeup and wardrobe. And
27.
Oh, that's old Dave. Much younger Dave. Okay. Anyway, so I'm standing there and like right next to him, and he's talking to Bill because they're buddies. And so Mr. Jones goes, so where's the director? And Bill goes, well, and he says, this is David. He's the director. It's David Evans. And James looks at me and goes, no, seriously, where's the director? Director. And I held up my hand and I go, no, seriously, I'm the director. And he looks at me like, you got to be fucking kidding me. How old are you? So I looked really young, and I told him and all that. And then we got along famously. And of course, all the boys, all those little dudes could not believe that Darth Vader was on their movie set. Oh, they were just gobsmacked. And they all out like pieces of paper and autograph books and shit and pens. And they kind of like stood in line off to the side waiting to ask him for his autograph and stuff. He was so kind. He signed everything.
Wow. And that's only really, like, when you think about it, what year was shooting? I have to ask because, release and shooting is very different sometimes.
Very different. Yeah. I mean,
so 92. So we're, God, what, 8 years, 7-8 years from Return of the Jedi? Like, this is, 7 or 8 years to me right now, it's not a long time. So especially,
I mean, it seemed like forever. I mean, you get a sequel that,
9 years, yeah.
Yeah. But it was different in those days.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can turn your TV on and you can see anything you want in a sequel to a movie that came out yesterday. In those days, it was old school. It was the anticipation, and you knew it was coming, and that's okay. You wanted it to come soon, but you'd wait 9 years for a new Star Wars.
That's true, and you couldn't exactly just pop it on whenever you wanted to. VHS players in the 80s were relatively new, and with Betamax, and nowadays, and it's just kind of funny how, like, music, not to get on too much of a tangent, but unfortunately it's just the way things are, where music and movies will never kind of be as substantial to someone's existence as much, because you don't have a feeling of ownership based on the fact that people don't really buy physical media anymore. Like when I used to buy well, I'll call them records, but even when I used to buy albums, CDs, tapes, or anything, I spent my money on this. When I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of money, so even if I didn't like the album, I would like it out of I would like it out of spite. And movies and DVDs, like, people would have probably maybe 4 or 5 VHSs they would own because they were so expensive, and as a result, you would watch them all the time. and
Absolutely.
and now, as I'm just going through, and Sandlot's on Disney Plus, everybody, I'm very, very glad it's available to that many people, new generations. My friend Yannick showed his Awesome Kid Saber the other day, and he's 8 years old. So, the circle goes on, and I'm glad it's that readily available to everybody. But you're just not going to have the same feeling of 30 years later. You're going to be talking about that movie you streamed one day. It's just not the same. It's a dying art.
It is. Look,
Yeah.
you pride of ownership in your physical media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to have, oh my God, 5,000 laser discs, 10,000 CDs and all that. And over the years, it's like, look, I gave them to my kids, or I sold them, or whatever. I mean, I kept my books, as you can see, when that's 1/3 of my books.
Oh, my friend Elisa's asking, what kind of books do you got on that shelf?
Yeah, you name a title. Look, well, I mean, up there are all first editions. There's all 14 of the Ian Fleming novels. Every classic you can possibly imagine: Hemingway, Faulkner, Steinbeck. Name it, I got it. But anyway, point being, that's kind of the last physical media.
Yeah.
I'm not really a Kindle dude. I like to hold my book, and read it.
Yeah.
But you're right. And look, according to the numbers, it hasn't impacted. The Sandlot's into its 3rd generation, at least, of fans and viewers. That the physical media is kind of going away, although it sells a boatload of DVDs and 4K and Blu-rays still to this day, every year more than the year before.
As it should.
Yeah, I'm intensely grateful for that, obviously. But I have no problem with streaming, because it's 4K, it looks great. They do it a justice, and if a new fan can push a button and watch it, uninterrupted, I got no problem with that.
All right, we got Nick. We're going to take a break on your questions, because I just asked them 4 of them, and there's 2 others, but we'll leave that till the end. Brandon has a great question right now. He says, were there any improvised moments or lines that ended up working better? You have your script, and you're like, okay, we got the script, we got the line, let's do it in our way.
The first quick, easy example is when Ham is catching and they're playing the Little League team, the bad guys.
Yeah.
Every single line that Ham says, I fed him off as the camera was rolling on the day. Just made him up.
Really?
Yep. In the scene where it was at Ham at bat, or it might have been Scotty at bat, and you hear off screen Squints go, "Come on, Benny, hurry up, my clothes are going out of style."
That's when he's teaching Smalls how to throw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
got from the we were told, the studio was told,
Mm.
the distributor and the theatrical owners in Japan, the largest laugh they have ever heard in a Japanese movie theater.
Really?
No idea why, but apparently it played big in Japan.
I can tell you why, actually. North America in general, because Canada and America are very, very similar when it comes to nostalgia. In Japan, I've been over there twice, and when it comes to them and their entertainment, they put something out and they move on. Like us, I'm still talking about how awesome the 90s are on various platforms. I'm always bringing up nostalgia. Well, to them, when I went to Japan, let's say 11 years ago, I was like, great, where's all the Dragon Ball stuff? And at that point, Dragon Ball stuff wasn't prominently coming out. And they're like, oh, that stuff, that's old. I'm like, yeah, it's old. Old's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're so unless it's like traditional Japanese stuff, when it comes to pop culture, their pop culture is like, let's put it out. Let's do one season. It's going to be 50 episodes and then it's done.
Wow.
We're going to make the toys and then we're going to make new toys and we're going to move on. So I think that thing of my clothes are going out of style is the same thing with pop culture where it's just kind of like, we're not going to ironically keep wearing the same t-shirt like I've had since 2003. We're going to get new shirts. So that is my interpretation of it. Anybody from Japan who lives in Japan, please school me and correct me. But when I was there, I had an awful hard time finding, unless I was in Akihabara, finding that kind of stuff. So anyway, oh, cool. Megan says currently in Japan, a Canadian export can confirm. Yep. All right. Liz is asking, what's your top 3 80s movies? I mean, the 80s was a special decade, came right before your time as a director, and, established a lot of these kid adventure movies that we all know and love, like Goonies and all that. What are some of your favorite 80s movies?
So in my mind, the greatest action film ever made, The Road Warrior.
Nice.
Woody Allen's Manhattan, which I think was 1980. Google me on that.
Okay.
And that is probably my favorite movie. I mean, except for, all of the classics and stuff. I just can never get enough of that movie. It's absolutely perfect. And then it would be hard to choose.
1979.
That counts.
It counts. It's right there.
We're still playing in theaters in 80, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, got to be one of the Star Wars. That Road Warrior, Woody Allen's Manhattan, and look, I mean, all the great Savage Steve Holland films. One Day Summer, Better Off Dead. I mean, all those John Cusack movies. I loved Stripes. My God, comedies. We could go on and on and on. Let's be here for 10 hours.
Yeah.
But I'd have to say, I mean, the original Star Wars changed my life. So,
okay, so if the original Star Wars changed your life, let's hear. Okay, you told me about, and we'll whip out a picture of all these. You told me about all these tykes reacting to James Earl Jones. Well, Star Wars changed your life. How did you react to James Earl Jones?
It's an intimidating fella in person when you meet him because he's a big man, and his body of work, his remarkable talent, and everything that goes with that. You build up a thing in your head. At least I was pretty young at the time. I mean, I've never really been starstruck, but yeah, dude, I was starstruck when he came on the set. I mean, here I am with my little movie, and there's this, treasure, international treasure. And, I'm sure at the time, I don't remember it vividly, but I was probably pretty fucking worried I was going to make an idiot of myself in front of him,
Especially when he's just like this 27-year-old kid. Oh, yeah, where's the real director?
But here's what I learned, though. Actors like James Earl Jones, he showed up.
Their film is kind of like, I don't know the correct term. He's put on this mystical pedestal, this like this godly human that can't be touched, the legend of Babe Ruth. And then you do this great scene that Nick brought up earlier about the actor who played the great Bambino himself, and they're bringing in all these names. You know, they're just making him larger than life. But then you get the actor to come in to play Babe Ruth, who's like, yeah, 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 and all those other goofy names. So all of a sudden, you humble him,
Mhm.
right before Benny's about to go face the beast. So it's amazing that in the same movie, within an hour, you bring up somebody to a godly level and then bring him to a relatable human level of humbleness. um how do you feel about the great Bambino and Babe Ruth and all that, and the actor portraying him?
Well, the actor who portrayed him is Art LaFleur, and Artie has been in I did 100 movies,
Yeah.
maybe. Artie's a great, great friend of mine. I met him through a mutual friend who's another great, great friend of mine, the screenwriter Vince McEwen. And when uh, I did the Sandlot, and I have this very small cadre of writer friends, 5 or 6 people, including me. And we've known each other for decades. And we are the only ones that read each other's material before it goes to an agent or, a studio or anything like that.
Yeah.
We don't pull punches with each other. It's like you killed it, or, dude, fucking don't let it see the light of day. You got to fix shit. We're very, very ruthlessly honest with each other. And it's the only way to be. And when I think it was Vinny, read the script, he goes, "You got to get Artie to do this part." And I went, "Oh my God, he's perfect." So I asked Artie about it, and he said, "Oh my God, I have always wanted to play Babe Ruth."
Okay.
Dude, then you got to do it. And Artie's one of those actors like Mr. Jones that you give him a part, you give him an adequate amount of time to prepare, and this guy comes on set, roll, cut, he's done. He nailed it. I don't
Okay.
know if he stands in front of a mirror. I don't know what his technique is to practice or rehearse, but whatever he does, it's thorough.
Yeah.
And I only had Artie for one day, and Artie to this day will tell you, and he said it many times in interviews. He goes, "It was the greatest one-day gig I ever had." And he killed it. And we talked a bit about it, and he did. We did talk about that in a manner of speaking, in a fashion. Look, you're a ghost, okay? Only be here for a certain amount of time, and it's not a long time. So you got to get right to the point with this kid, and blah blah blah. So that's kind of an answer to where that thing was. Yeah, kid, I know, and all a bunch of goofy names. It humbled Ruth, but it made him humble. But it also, and from the research that I did at the time about Babe Ruth, is he was kind of like that. I mean, people, and even if you think about it to this day, even globally, and it has a lot to do with when Ruth was born, when he was playing baseball. There was radio, then there was film, and now he wasn't just a national treasure. Everybody around the world could see his exploits and shit, and they could hear it broadcast live. That was the first time in history, in human history, that could have, our human history. And he is I mean, look, there's Muhammad Ali, definitely a hero and a legend. You could make that argument about, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marcia in the boxing world. In the baseball world, there's a lot of heroes. There's, the Lou Gehrigs, the this, the that, the guys who got today's stuff. Nobody, no athlete, not Pele, who was a great soccer player and a global icon. Nobody today, and I don't think ever, will ever be an absolute, true, unmitigated legend, an absolute legend, like Babe Ruth. And that's it. It worked out. I knew it was going to be, the background of the movie was going to be baseball. So I mean, there's no choice. It's got to be the Babe.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. It's just like, even with the home run record, how James Earl Jones brings up, he's like, "Oh yeah, I knew him. I almost beat his record too, but got us
Boom.
boom, one fastball to the eyes. So two things about that scene that really stuck with me. Number one, it made me really scared to get hit in the face with a baseball. Like hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. I'm like, you could go blind because I wore glasses back then. So it's like not only will it hit me, but it might shatter glass into my eye. So
Yep.
to this day, I'm still a little wincy about objects being like thrown at my face at various speeds. And number two, when he brings up, he's just when he brings up, he's the first person to call him by his regular name.
George. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, George. Yeah, yeah. Just like, oh, that guy. And I've heard rock stars say similar things. Like, I grew up worshiping musicians. Like, when all these kids were worshiping baseball players, I was worshiping musicians. And when you hear people tell stories about, oh, yeah, the studio that day. Yeah, no, I did 2 takes. I had diarrhea, but it turned out all right. I'm like, turned out all right. That's one of the best drum solos ever. Like, what are you talking about? So it's interesting when you hear, it's the first time you hear George being referred to by a peer in the movie, and as opposed to the kids looking up at the Mount Olympus of baseball legends, and it just reminds you, it's just like, man, we're all human, but sometimes, and it's true, sometimes the greatest of the greats are those humble people. It's everyone else around them. They're just like, oh my God, this guy, holy crap, this guy.
I've seen it
But
many times, dude. And
yeah.
listen, FYI, we are going to make, I don't know if it's going to be this year, I hope so, a prequel to The Sandlot that takes place in 1950. The script's done. Fox loves it. Of course, Disney bought Fox, so they got to get by them. And the gears of the studio machine grind slowly. I'm very proud of it. I'm very, very happy with it. And it's the story that it tells you that backstory about Babe Ruth and Mr. Myrtle's friendship and where the Beast came from, and literally where the Sandlot came from. Because turns out that our kids in 1962 in the original Sandlot didn't build it. A generation before them of kids built it, and it's a whole new cast. So I know, right, Nicholas? I am champing at the bit to make that picture. So if you're listening, Fox, please give me the money.
Speaking of money, a money shot that people keep talking about, and a money moment. And my friend Kathy and Nicholas there have both referenced this about the Hank Aaron card.
Mm-hmm.
And how Babe seemed to be interested in that. Can you tell me about writing that scene?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hank goes on to break the Babe's record, and this apparition that appears to Benny happens in 1962, and so Hank wasn't actually going to break the record until what, the 70s? When was it? 75? You got to Google me on that.
I'll have to, because I know about as much about baseball stats as I know about heart surgery. So yeah.
But Benny, as a huge baseball fan, it seemed to me, and I think it was a kind of a last minute kind of ad. And like I said, my
I believe it's 74.
74. Okay, I was a year off.
Yeah.
So in 62, Hank was playing Major League Ball. Okay. Yeah. And Benny would have definitely had his baseball card. I think I don't know if it was his rookie card or not, but it was a legit card. That one for sure. And I said to Terry Haskell, I said, put that thing over here. And then I told Art, when you turn to go back in the closet, notice this. Okay. And then ask him if you can keep it. And he goes, oh, great, dude. So we just did it. I mean, because, the ghost of Babe Ruth in the real world for 2 minutes as a premonition about this dude on a baseball card that's going to break his record, the unbreakable record, the one unbreakable sports record. I thought that was
amazing. As I have a few more questions on our post, so I'm definitely, everybody out there, if you have questions, do not be shy. We will be answering them. But I got to bring up in the beginning of the movie too, I noticed three fascinating things about music. Number one, the Fox logo at least the Disney Plus version, didn't have the big Fox opening sounds that you would hear in the beginning of a Star Wars film. The first music I hear is the quiet, nostalgic, and very sentimental score of the film. And I want to ask you about who scored this movie, but also right in the beginning of the movie, it's a period piece, and nothing is more successful to bring you into a period than a great soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack of the 60s is something very special. It's the greatest time machine you could possibly ever create. Tell me about the scoring of the music and then picking these timeless songs to make a movie about the 60s, yet not feel disconnected to a kid in the 90s.
Well, there's Needle Drop, which is all of the songs and, stuff from bands and artists and stuff and the 60s, and the 50s, some of that stuff like Finger Poppin' Time and all that, I think is late 50s. Because, you're always a decade behind, fashion is always the 80s weren't the 80s, they were the 70s, and the 90s weren't the 90s, they were the 80s, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was 62. They were still like, the 50s were still there. Yeah.
So the guy who did the temp music, which is an artist, kind of like he's like a music editor who will movie without any music, including no composed music at all either, and it's just this movie with dialogue and picture. And you talk to this person at length, and you say, "I want it to feel like this here. I want it to feel like that there. I'd like some needle drop here, a song here, blah blah." Blah. And you kind of get it together. And that was Daniel Schweiger, who's one of the best. He's just a sweet, sweet guy, Daniel. And he's an encyclopedia of music, especially of movie music. And every time you see a DVD or something come out that's like the soundtrack to movie X, a lot of times if you look inside there, Danny's written the liner notes. Okay.
Oh man,
he's just a brilliant guy. Anyway, he was just starting out at that time, and we gave him the gig, and he just kicked the shit out of it, and gave us a temp track that we really, really liked. Now we went after some of the songs that he had picked, but some of them were way too expensive. We couldn't afford them. Finger Poppin' Time was not supposed to be that. It was supposed to be something else. But then we found, so we couldn't afford it, and like blah blah blah. And I think, and the biggest example of that is in the end. When he's running from the beast and his wipeout, that was supposed to be Wooly Bully.
Oh crap! Really?
But the publisher of that, even for the rights to re-record it or buy something other than Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, shit, dude, they wanted hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We didn't have that kind of money, and so we got that wipeout. And I don't think that's the Ventures. I think it's a re-record or whatever. It ended up working better because it's got more of a drive to it and more, percussion. So there's that. And then once that got done, I interviewed a couple of composers, including Stuart Copeland, who I really wanted to work with. And then, shit happens, and you gotta, things work out the way they're supposed to. And I met Newman, and David he is a consummate gentleman, supremely talented. I mean, he's from the Newman musical family, Randy, Alfred, my God, dude, David. And he watched the movie, and he absolutely loved it. And he heard the temp track, and I go, "No, do better, dude." And
what just absolutely loses herself watching any animal get hurt. So you just see the dog, this giant, mythical, larger-than-life titan that has scared our heroes the entire movie and kept said baseball away, created the third act disaster under a fence, whimpering, asking for help. And the first thing Smalls does, who was the scared, timid, didn't want to be, couldn't barely put himself out there, couldn't throw, couldn't catch, having everyone pointing and laughing at him, Smalls makes the decision to approach and try to lift up the fence even by himself when everyone else is cowering away because the squints is fake news. Smalls is trying to attempt to lift it up, and who does help him? He asks as Benny helped him once before join the team, he asked Benny again for help, and Benny's also the one that helps him lift up this fence, which is like a metaphor for Small's full circle character becoming the actual hero of the story in his own right. He is Hercules's hero. Now, like that scene is pretty powerful. Was it always going to be like that, where, you know, let's not call him the Beast anymore, let's call him Hercules, where Hercules is stuck on a fence and Smalls will be the one that saves him?
Yeah, but it was originally written and it read pretty good. I mean, but there's a difference. You make 3 movies when you make a movie. You write a movie, you direct a movie, and you edit a movie. Okay, arguably it's 4, and then you mix a movie. But let's just call it 3. And so, you know, you try to pull out the stops to make everything as exciting as you can, and like that. So as long as it all makes sense for the story. And in the original script for the Sandlot was not a sandlot. It was a asphalt elementary school recess field where they played, and there was a scary dog behind a big chain link fence out in the left field. And in the end, when the dog they run around and all that, he follows Benny up the chain link, and his collar gets caught on the top of the chain link, and he's hanging.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and they have to in the original script, the boys have to grab him and work all together and lift him up to save his life, and they do. Well, when the dog trainer read that, they go, "It's not going to happen, dude." Okay, first of all, English to the emotion of the piece, and it turns out, like it does a lot of times, in fact, most of the time,
yeah,
you got to find another way or compromise. You know, on the day as a director, you know, you're throwing F-bombs like "fuck this shit" and "no way," my way or the highway. And then it turns out you got to turn around and go, all right, I was wrong. It's better this way, you know? And it just happens, you know, and it's the movie gods helping you out.
And why is it that in the original all the kids are helping them, and then in this version, you know, they all wuss out except Benny?
Because it made total sense. When we were literally rehearsing it and doing the scene and stuff, it was like, that's another one of those on the fly. All of these guys lifting that is a mistake, because by that time, we shot that toward the end of the movie, toward the end of production. And it was very clear from the dailies, from this and that it's a story about Scotty and Benny's friendship, you know, and it needed to be them and not these other guys. Not that they were doing anything bad. It's just, it wasn't about them at that point. And there was no point in being involved. It wasn't good. It wasn't good storytelling. You know, it would have been messy.
And I was, upon rewatching it even today, I was looking at the part where Smalls, you know, who's not, you know, too deep into this beast mythology, says, well, why don't I just knock on the door? And then Squints immediately vetoes at that by saying, like, no, he's the one who, no, you can't do that. He's the one that fed him to that kid. And it's just like, man, this whole thing would have been done if they just would have let him go knock on the door.
That's why we had Mr. Myrtle goes, why don't you just knock on the door? I'd have got it for you.
Yeah.
And they want to beat Squints' ass. Well, that's another thing. That legend, that story that he says, you know, he's the one that sicked the beast on the toad. Who's the toad? Well, you find out in the prequel.
Oh, sick. Okay, yeah, everybody out there, let's you know, raise some awareness. I mean, we definitely want that Sandlot prequel, because I want to know more about Mr. Myrtle, to be honest.
Dude, put out to all your viewers and stuff, and your subscribers. Just do that Reddit thing they did with GameStop, except for the prequel Sandlot to Fox and Disney.
Okay, so Aaron James asks, how gross was it to do the puking scene?
Oh, that was hysterical. That again was my prop dude. And I said, so Terry, it just got to look chunky, brown, and ugly. So I think he had a 5-gallon bucket. And I think he put some sort of colloidal stuff. I can't remember what it was. It's inert, you know, like glycerin or something like that. And he put like oatmeal, baked beans, and I think a bunch of chopped up beef jerky or turkey jerky or some shit like that.
That's even worse than I imagined.
Oh, it's horrible, dude. It's horrible stuff. It smells bad. And it looked, it just looked like chunky vomit. It was perfect. And we had 5 gallons of it. So I think we got 2 or 3 takes to toss it out and let it hit the camera.
Yeah.
We're pretty good, you know.
Awesome. And was that based on, I mean, you mentioned a lot of things from your childhood and like how your childhood should have gone. But did you ever dream big about puking, about you and your friends having a mass puking experience publicly on a ride?
I mean, I knew I wanted to have a good, kid puke scene, because look, that's gold.
Yeah.
If you do it right, and it just it was just another one of those little, when you're writing a movie, you're like a puzzle master.
Yeah.
I can see the entire finished movie, but now I got to write all the little pieces and put them in the right spot, and it just seemed to me that a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds who won this big game, it was like the only big game in the movie.
And it's not even a contest. That's the thing, though. There's not a single element of difficulty that they go through because these guys live and breathe baseball and they just murder them.
They just slay them.
Yeah.
And they get a little too big for their britches. Like, I can't come up with a time that I did when I was a kid, but I guarantee you there were plenty of times where I got too big for my britches, like we all did.
But for sure.
Oh, I know. And I think it was the co-writer who goes, dude, they got to chew tobacco. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Paid for it. And I think we gave it to Bertram at the last minute because he was funny as hell. They were all great. And we shot that entire thing in like 3.5 or 4 hours at night, one night. We had to move. I mean, we had an adequate amount of time initially, but then they cut my schedule. And again, you got to remember, you got 9, 11, 12, and 13-year-old kids. They're not allowed to work past like 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Labor laws and they call it Rule 1 with SAG and all that. And at that time, you're talking, it didn't get dark in Salt Lake City. That was American Fork, Utah, which is north, I believe, of Salt Lake City. It didn't get dark until probably 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, okay.
Dude, at 10:30, they turn into pumpkins. Cinderella's gone, man. So we had to get everything, and it remains the best crew I've ever had. They just kicked ass and took names. It was great.
Yeah, I'm even looking at a movie that's shot. Oh my God! Like, so we're nearing the 30th anniversary, for sure. Just because the last year has gone by in in hiding inside office terms very, very quickly. It almost feels like I'm in Groundhog Day, except there's a less cast of characters. So it's gone by pretty quick. So I'm like losing track of lifetime. But I got to ask, my buddy Yannick's son says, Saber would like to ask, what inspired you to make the movie, and why do you choose to make this movie? Well, we brought that up a little bit before, but how about I spin it into why baseball?
Well, a bunch of reasons. One, it's my favorite sport. Well, it's my second favorite sport.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as an adult,
as
a kid, it was my favorite. Now, I never got to. We were very poor, so it was a very big deal to go to a baseball game at Dodger Stadium, and because I am diehard, I bleed Dodger blue, man, and always have. Maybe in my childhood, got to go 2 times, and we'd sit in the nosebleed seats, and we'd get a Coke and a Dodger dog, and Chavez Ravine, where the Dodgers play, and I've been to every single Major League Baseball park in the world. Okay, well, in North America, let's say that.
Yeah,
and it's still the greatest place to watch a baseball game, especially a late afternoon into night game. And that experience never left me, and That's part of the reason it was baseball. The other part, obviously, was because my brother did, as a kid, go over this. It was a brick wall, not a wooden fence, to get a baseball because these bad kids told him if he did, and it was the only baseball they had, that if he brought it back, he could play with them. They had never let him play, or me, with them before, so he couldn't resist. So it had to be baseball. Plus, there's all the other tangential things. It's America's. It's America's game. Number one. Number two, in my estimation, is the greatest game ever invented. And I think it's the game that most mirrors life, in many, many ways. You're a team, but a single person can make a great big difference. It's a game like life where a lot of time you just stand around in the outfield and nothing fucking happens. And
That's
boom,
true.
something happens and everybody's got to be ready to go or something bad's going to happen. So the team needs to be able to, in a millisecond, be able to come together and solve a problem or prevent a bad thing from happening, like somebody getting a run. And just like in life,
Yeah.
So it mirrors life that way. And that, to this day, that still fascinates me, and I love it.
So we're bringing up the fact that you like baseball so much. Are there any other, like I said, I'm not actually, the baseball in person like fan where I will watch a game, but I'll watch any baseball movie. I love sports movies. I think they're some of the greatest movies ever because whoever is involved in them clearly loves it enough to emulate that love to somebody else, and that kind of like that love is very it's so enthusiastic that I find myself drawn to that enthusiasm. And the Sandlot, I wanted to be part of a baseball team. It's why I played softball for a year because I saw this movie and I just wanted to feel the way they all felt together. So that's a good point that you bring up. But what is a sports movie that's not about baseball that you find yourself enjoying? Because you don't have to watch the game on TV to be able to like a dramatic depiction.
You want me to pick one?
Sure.
Oh shit, it's got to be Bull Durham.
Okay, cool.
I mean, that's not about baseball, dude.
Yeah.
Baseball's the last thing it's about.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's any hockey movies, like big shout out. Like I see on Facebook that we're both, well, I don't know him. He was nice enough to answer a friend request, but your pals with your chums with the writer of the Mighty Ducks and stuff. When you guys were all reigning supreme with these kids sports movies in the 1990s, did you all did you know any of the other people in these other camps making these?
Although I did a picture with a cinematographer named Dan Stoloff, and Dan Stoloff shot Miracle. That's got to be one of the in sports filmmaking, the annals of sports filmmaking.
Yeah,
that is a remarkable feat of picture making.
Miracle, right?
Yeah, because everybody already knows the ending.
That's true,
but it's still great. How did they do that? Okay, that really impresses me. Miracle.
Actually, and Miracle's it's one of those based on the true story movies.
Exactly right.
Sandlot's pure fantasy fairy tale. Right. When you know the ending, how interesting can you make it? And the answer is most of the times very interesting. I mean, The Rookie's another great baseball movie.
Terrific film. Yeah.
And I love sports movies. I love the heart. And at the same time, it's kind of like I truly think it really does encourage kids to actually, who had no prior interest in sports, to actually go involve themselves in it, because it's not just about the physical activity and about the winning. Like, playing the games are actually, it's actually enjoyable to play. I enjoy playing baseball. I don't enjoy watching it professionally, but I do enjoy throwing. I do enjoy catching. I'm not very good at it, but I do enjoy the process.
Yeah, I mean, hey, who doesn't love to throw a baseball and have a catch? When I asked my wife to marry me, and I asked her literally on that home plate on the original Sandlot. Right after she
Yeah.
asked, no, I win. I win.
Yeah. Okay.
You ever get to that point, Ryan? Just realize you're getting second place. Okay.
Well, gotcha. Well, first of all, I need to make a timeless sports movie that has been treasured for 30 years. And the second of all, I have to make sure after said doing so.
But look,
Okay.
here's the deal: is the
Oh,
best.
okay. We've had some stream errors on YouTube apparently because we've been playing clips, but you know what? Facebook's where this show lives. So everyone on Facebook, hope you're having a good time. YouTube, we'll figure that out later. But anyway, getting back to your romanticism. And did you okay, wait, I gotta ask you this because this is kind of unique. You said you proposed on a set right after shooting
No,
the
no,
entire
no, in 2013.
Okay.
Anniversary
Perfect.
tour, yeah.
The anniversary tour. Okay, so that is so did you know you were going to do that the whole time? You're like, oh, this is coming up. This would be a good moment.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I planned it. What was it? Squint says been planning it for years.
So she's your Wendy.
She is in far more ways than one. Yes. Question. Actually, you can see.
Well, it's really nice to know that you didn't have to pretend to drown to get your wife. That's great.
No, I did not have to pretend to drown.
My friend Frank sent this over. It's an actual Wendy Peppercott baseball card.
Yep, that card came out. It looks like one of the ones that was, and that's a valuable card. That may be one they did for the 20th or the 25th anniversary, but it looks like it might be one of the ones that was included when the Sandlot originally came out in 1993. Fox did this really cool promotional thing, and they made a bunch of. Let's see if I have one here. Hold on.
All right. Everyone is just joining us right now. We're talking to David Mickey Evans, the director of The Sandlot, but also the director of some other movies I really enjoy, including First Kid. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about, you've had a career, sir. We got to talk about that career. But let's look at this greatness.
Cards from this is a shoebox with the beast paw print and the picture of the guys. Sorry, got bad light. And 20th Century Fox, and then they gave these out during the first run of the movie, and with it you got so that's actually
you and the big one,
all of the baseball cards of all the kids.
Oh wow.
Of which all those. You got a Sandlot button. You got a really cool Sandlot mini bat pen.
Nice.
You got a full-on Sandlot the Beast doggy leash and some other junk. And they gave out, holy mackerel, tens of thousands of these. So that one she has, I think, is from the 25th anniversary tour because I kind of did it again,
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely valuable. And Topps in 2018 did a whole set of Sandlot team baseball cards, and I think I have a set of those around here because I signed about 1,000 of them, and I think all the other guys signed them as well. So if you can find a set of those, they're worth a couple of cents.
Yeah, for sure. I have my first attempt to collect any of these 90s sports movies, nostalgia stuff I have. I recently purchased a Mighty Ducks jersey, but and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, really, unless it's Benny's jersey that has Rodriguez written on the back, like there's no team ownership of these characters, and nobody has they're all just their friendships was bonded them and not their jerseys. And I'm like, man, that is so unique. That is really unique, and how it stands apart from everything.
They never kept score. They never chose sides. It was like an endless dream game, man. And look, that's the way. I did play a lot of little league ball and stuff when I was a kid. So did my brother, and those are some of our fondest memories. When we were out there playing ball, organized or not.
Mhm.
You know, you were your own man, you know, and but you're just playing, you know, there wasn't a point to it other than the pure love of doing it, you know?
Well, I appreciate that more because as a person who's not really good at competitive situations, every time someone's like, "Okay, we need to know who wins," and I'd be playing at even dodgeball at school with some kids who were taking it really seriously because I think it had something to do with their older siblings being better than them or something, and they kind of like brought those issues to whatever you're doing, and I'm like, man, it is so like when your kids and someone is overly competitive, it's a real turnoff. So as a person, hey, anyone out there, if you're awesome at your sports, at your games, and you want to win and all that, to all the power to you. But I want to be Smalls in the outfield, just holding my glove in the air and hoping Benny just hits it directly at me.
Out in the air, I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really that was a really awesome scene. Brandon made a joke here. He said a sequel where they're all in their 30s and 40s and all have a beer league or softball team. Well, you know what, Brandon? Actually, there are sequels to The Sandlot, and there's Sandlot 2, and then there's Sandlot 3, which is not directed by you, but also I believe directed by the gentleman who did Angels in the Outfield, another great baseball movie. It's kind of interesting how all that happens. But let's talk a little bit about Sandlot 2, that you filmed that about 10 years after.
12
And
years.
12 years after. Tell us a little bit about Sandlot 2, because
I originally had 6 Sandlots written.
okay.
62, 72, 82, 92, 202, and 212.
Really?
Fox declined to do any of them. And their reason was, even after it was a massive success,
Okay.
you're talking about a movie that's made on a budget of $8 million that went out in its initial thing and made between $40 and $50 million in the theaters alone, and 650 or 660,000 VHS tapes at $99 a tape into the rental market. Do the math. Okay. These days, if an indie picture gets made for, you know, $5 million and makes, you know, $3 million, it's a massive hit, which boggles my mind. But of course, we have many more platforms and stuff these days.
Yeah.
You cannot overestimate the success of The Sandlot. But executives being who they are and doing what they do and thinking like they think,
Yeah.
said, we're not going to do any of those sequels because they don't play overseas. Baseball doesn't play overseas. Number one
Okay.
sports movie in Australian history, number one in Japan, number one in Germany, believe it or not. UK did really well, and it continues to blah, blah. And so it took 12 years for somebody at Fox to go, hey, let's do a sequel. And I said, okay, but you got to promise not to send me to fucking Vancouver, British Columbia, because, you know, if we're going to be faithful to it, the movie's going to take place in the San Fernando Valley. And there's 2 places that look like the San Fernando Valley on Earth, the San Fernando Valley and Salt Lake City. Okay. Yep, absolutely. Made that promise to me. I wrote it, very 1972 centric. They loved it. And they go, well, you're going to Vancouver, British Columbia. And so I almost quit. And I said, all right, let's see what we can do. And then I think I had 42 days. It took about 42 days to make the original Sandlot on a budget of about $8 or $9 million. For the Sandlot 2, they gave me 17 or 18 days and $3 million.
You know what? I was going to say that. I was like, there was this feeling of when I was watching the second one, I was like, it seems like they're in a rush, or they had to like keep a first take of something, or like it really, you know, I was just like, I know David's style. I'm like, I've seen First Kid. First Kid's another great movie, by the way. And even if you like Sinbad or not, it's got all the feels. First Kid's a great kids movie. So check that out. And I'm going to be definitely checking out your Elijah Wood film, which I shamefully have did not hear of until you told me about before. But please continue. So they send you to Vancouver. They cut your budget. They say you got to make a movie in 2 weeks with kids, and kids are only on set for a limited time per day.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How the hell can anybody do that?
That's, I don't know. You just put your head down and keep going. and we got it done. And I mean, for the time and the budget, it's actually it actually ended up, and I think it is today. I have to check this, but I think it is still today the #1 direct to DVD family film of all time.
Okay.
With accepting any Disney animated direct to DVD movies. Those,
yeah,
you can't. Nobody can compete with those.
No.
But I mean, live action. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
It's, really, really still does well. #3 had nothing to do with it. It's an absolute piece of shit.
There's time travel. There's haunted houses. It's just kind of like it's kind of it's just it's something else. It kind of goes like, and by all means, putting this out there in the world, anybody who works on anybody that there's no point on bringing anything up by putting something else down, but it kind of like missed the point of, despite the fact that the Sandlot is a baseball fairy tale, it is all extremely real, and anything in it can happen. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So Sandlot 3, that's that. But
enough of that. Wait till the prequel, man. I'm gonna kick the crap out of that. That's gonna be. I can't wait to make that.
So yeah, there you go. But that's why I wanted to bring it up, because obviously there's this feeling, there's this hunger in you, to tell another Sandlot story, but your way. And you've had all this time to really think about it. You're not pulling some prequels out of your butt like some other filmmakers that will remain nameless. Clearly there's a rhyme and reason for this prequel to happen. And I am fascinated beyond belief to see the interpretation of the friendship that Mr. Myrtle and Mr. Babe Ruth had, because Babe Ruth in the 1950s is a world-renowned baseball player. He's the Michael Jordan of baseball. And what Hulk Hogan did for wrestling, like, his name is attached to it, even though someone else is named Mr. Baseball. Mr. Baseball, Babe Ruth has another few names. When did you concoct the idea for this prequel, and how long has it been in your mind? Because I know that this is the time when it's a good time to try to do this, but when did the idea come to you?
It came to me via email, believe it or not. And I'd been knocking around some ideas for more sequels of The Sandlot. And we actually sold and wrote, and it's set it up at Fox TV Disney Plus, is a I think your friend actually said something about this. It takes place in the 80s when all of the guys are mid-30s to 40s and they all have kids of their own.
Okay.
So that television series has been purchased and it's set up and it's ready to go. But again, the gears move slowly. And all odds are we're going to make that. We've got the first and second season all beat out.
Okay.
So that's that. But I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many emails and social media things and stuff.
Yeah.
Every day, man. Hundreds. It used to be hundreds a month. Now it's probably 50.
Yeah.
Between 100 a month. I got an idea for this. I got an idea for that. Read my script, and it's just delete, dude. But one young writer kept bugging me, and he's like, I got an idea for a prequel. And I'm like, holy crap. I said, no, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. And, he was very respectful, and he laid off. And then he did like a treatment for it. And he bugged me about it again. And he said, look, just so you know, and I completely understand. He goes, if you want to take this, it's yours. I know I don't have any rights to it. I just thought it was a really good idea, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, if he's willing to bet that if I like it, I can just take it, he gets nothing. Well, that's pretty ballsy, okay? And he said, it's the story. It's a prequel. It's the story of the legend of the beast. And the minute I read that sentence, I think I said, fuck, why didn't I think of that? So I said, send me your treatment. And he sent it to me. And I went, we can get Fox to buy this. So it took no time at all. We literally sent him the treatment. And I told him, yeah, I'm going to write it. And yes, this young writer is going to be the co-writer, and I'll guarantee the script and all that. And they hired us and we wrote it. And it's absolutely terrific. We did a really, really good job. I'm very proud of it.
I'm sure I'm happy that you're proud of it, and I'm so down. But you know what? The timing couldn't be better too, especially with that with all the players kind of being in their 30s and 40s. The timing's really good though, because not only was the newer Mighty Ducks show greenlit, but it's actually coming out in a few weeks. It's actually coming out in March. So or late February or March. I can't remember, but just to say though, it's kind of like this. Sorry, this is a time where 36-year-olds such as myself, I don't have kids, but a lot of my friends do, and they're all getting interested in this. And the fact that you made a timeless movie, so it's not like some kid will watch a movie from the 90s and be like, "Oh my God, it's so 90s." Like, ha, no, it is. It's about the 60s. Try that.
The other thing is that all the original guys are literally that age right now.
Yeah, exactly.
35 to 40 years old.
Yeah.
A lot of them have kids, some of them don't. But I mean, they're perfect. And they've already agreed. I got them all together and they all agreed to do the show. And we're just waiting on Disney Plus, man.
Oh man. So something we've been talking all about the movie and baseball and how baseball is life. Your cast of characters in that first one is nothing short. Your cast of characters in the first one is nothing short of kind of like a miracle of how all these kid actors who usually, let's face it, some kid actors aren't the best actors in the world, or they're very theatrical about things. Like all these kid actors felt like real kids. And to assemble this team all together so successfully, when you were casting, was there this feeling of relief when all of a sudden, like, you know, Patrick walks in and just being the comedic mastermind that he is?
Dude, are we live?
Yeah. Okay. If we're live, make sure if you don't want to say anything about your cast, it's all good, bro. It's all good.
I was gonna go refill my coffee cup, but
please do. I can entertain the troops, no problem. Please.
Take me like 30, 45 seconds.
Okay? Absolutely. Everybody just joining us right now, we are live with David Mickey Evans, the director and co-writer of The Sandlot. And so far on this live broadcast, we've some bombshells have been dropped. For instance, there is a prequel to The Sandlot being developed in which we learn the legend of the beast and Mr. Myrtle, and it takes place 10 or so years prior to The Sandlot, the original Sandlot team, how The Sandlot was actually built, and the friendship between Babe Ruth and Mr. Myrtle. So that is very, very cool. Looking forward to that. We're also hearing about a possible TV series in which the players that we all know, that we all grew up and loved, are in their 30s and 40s now, and how the story continues. And I'm assuming almost all the original actors are all down. And just to say, the interview is not over yet, everybody. And hi, Mom. How's it going? That's my mom. Just to say, everybody out there, that if you find this all fascinating and you're loving the nostalgia of The Sandlot, after this broadcast finishes, and please, I beg you, after, because I want to keep entertaining you, and who knows what will happen after the live stream ends, because we use some clips and maybe YouTube and Facebook will be like, no, so we don't know yet. But in the meantime, after this broadcast ends, I strongly encourage you to look up on YouTube the page "You're Killing Me, Smalls," that is hosted by Patrick Renna, who played Ham, and he was in Son-in-Law and The Big Green, and I just think he's absolutely fantastic. There was a Sandlot reunion on YouTube, and all the boys are there, including David here, and it's really cool to see everybody grow up. And just to say, yeah, is Jack now, dude. That guy is big.
Yeah, he's messing around, Marty. He's a big guy, and he is built like the proverbial brick shit house. He's in great shape. It's a very interesting question, and I've answered this before, but it's pretty fascinating. The original script for The Sandlot, all the kids were 8 and 9 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. And seeing a giant dog chasing down a 9-year-old is a whole different mindset. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, instead of tall, they were this tall, you know?
Yeah.
And we cast the entire movie that way. We months and months and months to cast the picture. Again, those were the days where you didn't have any Zoom or this or that. So we were getting the late great, God rest her soul, Sherry Rhodes, Joe Middleton was her assistant at the time. He's a fantastic, super successful casting director now. So we got all these 8 and 9 years old. They were terrific, you know. But it's an ensemble piece, and I learned a valuable lesson early in my career. You might, in an ensemble cast, you might find the perfect kid for a particular role, but you're not going to know that. And even if that's true, until you get them all together in a room at the same time. And even then, that one kid that might be perfect for that role might not fit. So it wasn't just casting each. Are we still cool? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not each individual kid. It was a double whammy. They all had to look and work together as an ensemble.
Yeah.
Graphically, size-wise, differentiations in what they look like, what they act like, and all that. And I didn't give a flying F whether any of these kids had ever been in front of a camera before. And in fact, only a couple of them had. A bunch of the other ones, this was their first gig. I didn't hire. You don't, when you hire kids to play characters, you don't hire actors, you hire the kid. And that's the big lesson I learned. So Benny the Jet Rodriguez is Mike Vitar.
Yeah.
Porter is Pat Renna. You know, Squints is Chauncey Leopardi. And so we found them all except for Ham. We didn't have a Ham. Anyway, I mean, the 8 and 9 year olds, and then we got them all together in a room. And I mean, it was instantaneously, you know, clear as a bell. And I shook my head, and Sherry did too. And I'm paraphrasing, but so I'm like, this is just not going to work. These kids got to be 12 and 13. And that was an uncomfortable job that I gave to Sherry and Joe, was go tell all their parents they're not hired anymore. And
dude.
Okay. Oh, that sucked so bad. Oh, it just sucked. So started over from scratch. And the very first kid that came in when we decided to go older was Mike Vitar. And he was exactly like Benny the Jet. He was from a quality family, a wonderfully well-spoken, beautiful, God, he's just a beautiful human being, super handsome.
Oh yeah, all the girls that I've talked to about this, including my buddy Julia, she's like, "Oh, that's the one with the cute kid." It's just like,
yeah, that's what he does. And he doesn't do interviews, hasn't for a long time. Never came on any of the, we did the Today Show during the 25th, nothing like that. No. He's a sweet guy, but I think he's a fireman in LA County or something, and he's got a family, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. And I understand. Anyway, point being, so we found the kids, and I think, Marty York was originally going to be Bertram, and Grant Gelt, who was Bertram, was going to be but that was okay. This is part of getting an ensemble together. Is okay, I think you're good for him, and let's get a call back there. And then eventually we had them all except Ham, and we brought them all in at the same time. And I just line up, and now we have the entirely opposite reaction, which was, these guys are perfect. That's the Sandlot kids. And then, like I said, we had to switch a couple of them, and to make it feel and work right. And then we didn't have a Ham, and we were going to leave LA, the crew and the cast and stuff, I think in a week.
Really?
And I said to Sherry, what are we going to do? And she goes, I don't know. I'll just have to go dig through stuff and all that. Oddly enough, about a week before that, I think Pat will tell you the same story. He thinks he's from Boston. His mom had brought him out that year. They flew out or whatever for what they call pilot season.
Get out, really?
Wanted to see if he could get a job in a television show and all that. And he just happened to show up like the week for the first time that we were looking for a Ham. And she goes, I found the kid. So I went in there, and he walks in with this hair and that freckled face and stuff. And I asked him a few questions, and I said, say this, say that, say the other thing. I said, can you throw a baseball? And he really could. He could throw really good. The three best players were Vic Demacia, who played Timmy. He's a lefty, and he could really huck a baseball. Obviously, Mike, he did almost all his own stunts, and every time he hits the ball, that's Mike Vitar. He's doing it himself. He's that good an athlete.
Wow.
Pat Renna. Pat Renna's a tremendous ball player. So I said, well, that's it. And so the kid showed up, the week before. He's there. He gets the movie, and he's in LA for a week or two, and boom, now he's in Salt Lake City. That's how the casting of The Sandlot went.
Wow.
Weird, right?
Yeah. And it takes actors, like we're talking about kids here, and some of the subject matter they're talking about, when you can be funny to a 36-year-old, it's not like you're writing for, like, they talk like 9 and 10-year-olds, but they didn't really talk for 8-year-olds. And I find in a lot of kids movies, that's what they do. They kind of dumb down the dialogue because they don't have any trust in their audience sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're aiming to make the parents fill themselves with emotions, that's how you can actually make a timeless movie. Because there's some great movies out there that I loved when I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
Can't emphasize that more when you're 9, but when you're 17, you're a little embarrassed to be watching it, but
yeah, there's that.
But The Sandlot is one of those movies that I've always been like, no, fuck you, that's awesome. And frankly, I don't get a lot of people ever giving me shit about that. In fact, if anything, it inspires new friendships and conversations based on a mutual love of something great. So we talked a little bit about the casting. You mentioned the shoot was long. You're shooting in Salt Lake. What would I know, dude? I know it's such a typical fucking question, but we've been talking for a while, and I would just like to know this. What was like the most difficult scene you had to do that, as a result, you enjoy it? You enjoy it so much because you were able to pull it off.
That's easy. The fireworks scene at night.
Okay.
At 0 time to shoot that.
Were they real fireworks, or is that special effects? Because they're pretty clean looking.
This is old school. Like, you remember we talked about the puppets? That's old school SFX.
Yeah.
Adam Howard, who's my SFX supervisor, who's one of the greatest guys. He just moved to Florida, by the way, where I am. And oh my God, he's done Star Wars, all the Star Treks. I mean, this guy is just one of the best of the best. Yeah. Well, he did my little movie for me back in 92. And we were shooting in Salt Lake City in the summer. We knew we had to do this fireworks scene. Now, when they're running out of their houses down the street to get to the Sandlot, those are all practical. Those are actually there. Those are real fireworks that the on-set effects guys wired up and, lit off as they were running by and stuff. That's all in camera, if you will.
Yeah.
When we shot at the Sandlot, where all the fireworks are supposed to be above their heads, dude, that would have taken 6 months to shoot that shit to get it right if we had to launch fireworks. If we could have got a permit, which we probably couldn't have.
No.
So we did. It just so happened we shot it during the summer. And a week or two before we were going to shoot it, I was talking to my DP. I go, dude, here's what we got to do. And we talked to Adam. He goes, just go shoot fireworks. So they went downtown Salt Lake City with a couple of cameras and got on the top of, the Marriott and the Hilton or whatever on their roof and shot all of Salt Lake City's fireworks that they put off for the 4th of July in the sky for free. And we looked at the dailies and stuff and we go, man, this stuff's fantastic. That's great. So what we did, again, very old school. And again, I had about 2.5 hours to shoot that entire scene because it didn't get dark until late. And these guys turned into pumpkins at like 11 o'clock, I think it was that day. So maybe 2.5 hours. And that means I got to shoot the pitch. I got to shoot the hit. I got to shoot the masters. I got to shoot a medium. I got to shoot something where Benny's running around all in slow motion. And I need a close up of every kid reacting to the fireworks and stuff. That's a shit ton of setups. Okay. So we went almost all handheld. And again, Anthony Richmond, one of my dear friends and one of the best DPs ever. He says, here's how we're going to do it. You had a camera guy, and we got a little old school, what they call a Fresnel light. Okay. They're about so big. And on the front, they have these little, like, what do you call them? Venetian blind kind of things. So you can turn the light off, turn the light on. And on the inside of those little Venetian blinds, we put a yellow, green, blue, red gel filters.
Okay.
Mimic the different colors of the fireworks in the sky. And we would go, okay, roll the cameras. And then we would just move slowly. And we would flash the lights and all these different colors on their faces. And then, okay, you're done. You go sit down. Bring the next kid. Move over here. And we got it all done. And then at the end, we took there's coming up here in your clip in a second. Those right there, those were never there on the night. Those are the Salt Lake City, fire.
Well, the second most powerful tool in movies I find is a good song choice. And that song choice, bringing it all together, I'm like, like a 9-year-old in Canada, I'm just like, wow, being a kid in the 60s in the States must have been awesome.
Thank you, Mickey.
but it's really oh yeah, all right, you boys are gonna play baseball, yeah. The interesting thing about that whole scene, was that Ray Charles singing?
Absolutely.
Ray Charles is actually the master of the montage, and he's a uncredited hero of it because he does there's this great montage in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation where Chevy Chase is looking at old family photos or old videos of his family having Christmas time, and I'm just like, wow, that's 2 times that Ray Charles has tugged at my soul to the verge of almost tears.
Well, look, you'll get arguments about this, or you'll get opinions, obviously a million of different opinions, but that scene, well, the Sandlot, with all the accolades that the Sandlot has garnered over the years, and I'm grateful for every single one of them, it was voted by, man, I can't remember. You'll have to Google me on this. It might be some big thing like Time Magazine or something like that. It was voted the most American film ever made. Not the best American film ever made. The most quote unquote American film ever made regarding content, I suppose. And I think that it got voted that to a large extent because of that scene. And that's really the centerpiece of the entire reason for writing the movie was I want to, make it the way it should have been. And if it had been the way that I wanted it, right? Thank you, Nicholas. Then I needed a scene. How was I going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, block party, fireworks. The only thing that's not in there is apple fucking pie. Okay. And there was probably one of those on the tables as they run by the food tables, but there was a hot dog, because and then we needed a song, and we went through a ton of songs, and there's a lot of great, really evocative songs that evoke, not to be redundant, America, but there is nothing better than Ray Charles's America. And we luckily got that. We had enough money to get that song, and boy, did it make a difference,
Yeah, and I think that's I think the world's in a strange place right now, but I think that's the thing that kind of brings everybody together. It's like here's a simple story about a bunch of friends. Like, I don't know what the fuck any of these kids' religious beliefs are. Fuck, they just like baseball. Baseball's let's. Everyone's got to stop focusing on what makes them different, and just focus on what do you have in common. And it's just like, well, besides Smalls, we all worship Babe Ruth. We think Benny's cool, and baseball is awesome. So, just simple things like that brings it all together. And it's interesting you said, it's like someone said it's the most American film. And I'm like, and as you said that, I was rewinding the movie in my head. And I'm like, man, I don't even think you see a flag in that movie. Really? And if for the term American film, you would think that they'd be all waving them simultaneously and, kind of going a Team America route. But it's just like, I think it's just in principle.
No, it is. No, and you're right. There's no overt, nationalistic patriotism thing, this, that, except for Ray Charles singing that song and a bunch of fireworks. Well, a lot of other countries have fireworks. Cool.
Exactly.
Not like that. They don't have baseball. And you got the Founders Day parade when Benny, the dog chases Benny through there as a big cake, and
Yeah.
all the little towns, not anymore, but used to have Founders Day parades and 4th of July celebrations, and everybody had a Wendy Peppercorn. Everybody in America went to a public pool. That's why there are public pools. Everybody played ball or wanted to play ball. Everybody felt like an outsider at one time or another, even the kids that were the leaders. There was so the Great American Treehouse. We built the best goddamn treehouse like in movie history.
Oh my God! And I had to blow up. You blew it up. You had the best ever.
Dude, I didn't blow it up. Those are just vacuum cleaners with dust. It's still there. Well, it's not actually there anymore. But
how did you pick which kid was going to be the one that gets stuck inside? Because I know it's not Smalls, right? That gets blown up.
No, it's
Tommy.
It's Timmy.
Timmy. So did he lose the coin toss or something? Like
no. That's a really cool question. I knew as I was doing it, and it's in the script to a large extent, but not all the way.
Mm.
Even although it's really a story about Benny and Scotty's friendship.
Yeah.
I knew that somewhere each one of those kids had to have the characters had to have their own moment.
Yeah.
Right? That was Timmy's moment. And so, I said, okay, man, we're going to put a bunch of diatomaceous earth in your hair. He goes, what's that? I go, don't worry about it. We dumped a bag on him. You keep your mouth shut. Now come down here, shake your head, take a big breath and do this, and that was his big moment.
Yeah. I noticed that all the characters kind of weren't just like fodder. Like they actually, all had a they all had a purpose and a point. And, that's great. What would you say, speaking of just purpose and points and stuff, what would you say is Ya's moment besides like being the one where he's like where Benny uses him as an example of you run like a duck. Yeah, he's but I'm part of the game.
Part of the game. Yeah, exactly. How come he don't get to be? But that character's big moment is when they wheel him up in a block and tackle and
my God, and go down. That's true.
There's actually the end of that scene is different when we actually shot it as well.
Okay,
we cut it out because we had time issues, and they bring him over and they set him down, and he stands up and he's kind of walking weird because he crapped his pants. I couldn't keep it in,
man. Oh my God. Okay, so that makes that totally is amazing. I noticed that Smalls kind of has a history with science, and you would think that he would grow up to be some kind of like engineer or scientist, given the fact that he was using his skill set to try to get the ball back from the beast, and that's what he does by himself. But he grows up to be a baseball announcer. Was he always going to be a baseball announcer?
Yeah, that's always in the script. Yeah, 100%. Because I knew I wanted to wrap up the Benny and Scotty friendship.
Yeah.
In a way that you can only do in a movie, dude. Right?
Yeah.
Shamelessly nostalgic. It's wearing it on its sleeve. I got no problem with that. And it seemed to me that was the best way to do it, because I always knew that Benny, when we were writing it, it was like, yeah, Benny's got to end up playing for the Dodgers, man. There's just no question. And then it was like, okay, well, then we got some bookends. So we put the bookends in there, and you don't know in the beginning that it's Scotty Smalls, but you find out in the end. I mean, you might suspect, but yeah. And then it's just the thumbs up, man. And that's another big American iconographic symbol, is just thumbs up. Okay, love you too, buddy. And that's it. It's simple is always better, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that Benny, I just love the way the narration. I mean, it's not wasted, and it's not kind of like you're not doing it to dumb down your audience either, because like a lot of narrations, and I find in TV shows everybody refers to each other like there's no hey man. It's always like hi man, we have 40 minutes to tell a lot of stories, so I'm going to re-examine this point And you know, when you're watching it in a row, you're like, no one talks like this. But
Yeah, no, I hate that kind of shit, dude. And
yeah.
look, you were right a little while ago when you were saying, I didn't write, I didn't sit there thinking, what would a 12-year-old kid say? Fuck that. I wrote what I would say.
That's what the Bad News Bears does.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill Lancaster. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, quick sidebar. I don't know if you know this. In the end, when Benny, he's got the mustache and he steals home. Do you know who played that role?
No, tell me.
Mike Vitar's real life older brother.
Get out! Really?
It was Pablo Vitar. Unfortunately he passed away a number of years ago. But
well,
he was
at least he'll always be immortalized in this classic that's beloved by millions.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mike, both his parents, he came from I think he had a couple of brothers and sisters, but he had his older brother Pablo, who was one of the most stand-up, just quality human beings, young men I ever met in my life. He was, I don't know, maybe 20, something like that at the time, maybe a little older. And he was there with Mike during the entire filming because he was his caretaker because Mike's parents couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And, so in the end, it was like we needed an actor to play the older Mike. And I said, no, you're doing it, Pablo. And that was a big day. It was a great day.
Wow. That's so crazy that they're like related. That's so cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you don't do a zillion interviews anymore, and as you clearly said, which means I feel beyond honored you're doing this right now. But I just want to, right before we began, I was bringing up the fact that I really like your film First Kid, and you were about to tell me something about the star of the movie, and then I said, let's wait till we're live to make sure it's real.
Oh, what was I going to say? Well, Sinbad. Gosh, I'm buddies with him on Facebook and stuff, and we talk occasionally and all that. And God, he's been working his butt off for the last year or two. He's been on the road doing stand-up gigs, you know, which he's just one of the best stand-up comedians of all time. And I think he had a stroke a couple of months ago.
Oh, so
sent prayers and stuff, and I have not heard how he's doing, but I think he's doing pretty good. But no, the deal with him is and I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, he's one of the funniest son of a bitches you'll ever meet in your life. And the reason he's like that is because he has one of the fastest minds. And I met a lot of real fast minds, okay, in the movie industry. But this guy, I've never met anybody that can ad lib like him. And he'll ad lib stuff that's like 10 times better than what was written. And as a director, writer, that's actually Art LaFleur, who played his boss, played Babe in the Sandlot.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to tell you about Brock Pierce, but my thing about Sinbad is really, I'm astounded and amazed. And I hope I get to work with him again because he really just, I don't know where he gets it, but his mind just works at hyper warp speed, man. It's just amazing. It's just a privilege to just be in the same room with somebody that is that fast on the draw. But what I was going to tell you is Brock Pierce, that kid right there, the first kid, Brock Pierce ran for United States president last year.
Wow.
Because Brock Pierce is a multi-billionaire.
Really?
Yeah, because he's the CEO and the chairman, I believe, of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and a number of other cryptocurrency things. He owns a sizable portion of Puerto Rico, and he is an insanely intelligent, successful guy.
Wow.
I have something to do with that, but I don't. Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Well, he was also a really good kid actor. And
yeah, he was terrific.
Yeah. Well, something I was telling you before about like why I think that movie works so much is that you know, he starts off being this kind of like this snot, and you see the first secret agent, well, the first agent that has to deal with him and the lack of patience he has, and you're like, okay, is this guy a straight up jerk, or has this kid just been torturing him for months, possibly years? And then when you see the kid kind of like, you know, really, you know, Sinbad kind of comes to him, and he's just like, man, why? Like, tells him off, and he finds the kid kind of hiding by himself, and the kid's just like, I don't have any friends. And you're like, oh, and that gets me right in the heart. When someone says I don't have any friends, I break. I'm just like, would you, like, please let's stop that from happening. I show up to every birthday party I'm invited to. I try my very best to get there, because you never know if you're the only one there, and it's happened and stuff like that. Yeah.
Dude, 4 adult children. We did that when they were kids. It was like we never turned down a request or an invitation ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, you're here right now, so you made my birthday is in probably 2 months, but you made my birthday just by showing up today. So I appreciate that.
Brian, all right, I'm gonna send you a card with a
when I get every time we're about to do a live interview, especially in the morning, I'm always expecting a message saying, nah. Like right before, it's just like, oh, this came up, because it happens, you know how current Hollywood is and stuff like that. You never know.
We don't go there.
No, we don't. All right, everybody out there. Well, we've been going for almost 3 hours. The thing is, I don't want to take all your time in the day, but right before we go, is there anything you want to say to the audience about how they can help you with this possible prequel or sequel series that you brought up before?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, it's stranger things have happened, and better things have happened. Although, and I mean, you know, you look at the Reddit thing with GameStop and all that. Look, I'm not out to punish anybody. I'm just out to, and sometimes, and they're all good people. You know, the executives at movie studios and stuff, you know, they get a lot of short shrift. They got a really tough job, man. It's like, how do you pick? How do you decide of all the scripts, that all the projects that are potential, the ones you've paid to have written, you know, this, that, and the other thing? What do you do? Because it's so layered, man. It's like, it's all the way from, do we like it on a basic level, all the way down the road to big conference rooms filled with these execs and movie. Well, it used to be. Now it's streaming people, distributors and stuff. Where can we find a place to put this movie if we do it? And you go, well, if we do it now, we spend this much money, then a year and a half from now or 22 months from now, it's really, really complicated shit. So I do not envy their jobs. But what I do know that we can do on a grassroots level, which is why that's the really good side of social media, is, hey, go to the Fox corporate or the Fox Filmed Entertainment or whatever Twitter handle, or their Facebook page, right? Or my stuff, because I can forward it on, and just go, for the love of God, please make the Sandlot prequel. I mean, you know, whatever you want to say, you know, we would love to see it, because the more of that kind of evidence, unfortunately, it kind of becomes necessary these days, that they get, the greater case they can make to their bosses who hold the purse strings and write the checks or push the green light button. So yeah, anybody that can just get dude, Fox and Disney, especially Disney Plus, and they're all over social media. Just go there, Sandlot prequel. Come on, guys, come on, and make it a thing. Make it a thing, and it'll get. It's going to get done anyway. This will just help it get done a lot sooner, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like to leave my island, but I will for that.
I think we've all been kind of living on an island. You actually, and me figuratively. My island's my desk, my cold backyard, and yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, David, for doing this. This has been
no whatsoever, Ryan. Thank you very, very much, dude. I didn't know much until I Googled your stuff and watched some of your casts and your interviews, and I was very happy to do this.
Oh,
And
great. Thank you.
anytime, my friend, anytime. I wouldn't tell you that if I didn't mean it. Okay.
Well, that means the world, because a lot of people, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, crap. If I knew, I would have asked this. And, and here we are. So everyone out there in internet land, I'm going to say goodbye to David properly after I hang up with you guys. But thank you very much for following. David, you're on Twitter. You said, what is your Twitter handle?
It's at DME Sandlot. DME Sandlot.
At DME Sandlot. That is the Twitter handle that you're going to want to follow, and you're going to want to help. And everyone, we got to get together because we got to win that big game. Sandlot prequel. Ask for it. Make it happen.
Yes.
See you later.
Let's do it.
Oh, and by the way, Brandon says, this is a wonderful surprise and an amazing day. Well, Brandon, you made it amazing because your questions, as always, are awesome.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everyone who's been watching. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.